crime in a neighborhood where an LA's Best program goes down. So that's the kind of program that would benefit from this. There's a program called the Gang Alternatives Program that is a school-based curriculum program that actually goes into the 4th grade in the LA Unified School District and teaches kids at a very early age how dangerous it is to be even thinking about joining a gang. The Conservation Corps would be another example of a program that would be eligible for funding from this $30 million. And we know that that's an organization that takes young people, many of them at risks, and teaches them skills and job skills while they help clean up different parts of Los Angeles. We know that apprenticeship programs, particularly those that are connected with our unions, that really can train young people and give them job skills, is another type of an organization or program that would benefit this. Basically, any program that can prove that it detours kids from joining a gang will be eligible for funding. This is going to be probably the most accountable, transparent, audited amount of money that we've ever dealt with in the city of Los Angeles. There will be an oversight committee that will decide where the money goes. Only programs that prove that they can work will be funded. If for any reason a program is funded and at the end of the year they have not been able to show success, they will not be eligible for funding the next year. So it's going to be audited by the city controller on an annual basis. So it'll be a very tightly watched pot of money. We know that it's taxpayer dollars, and we know that it's very precious, and we don't in any way want to waste this money on programs that don't work.
Now, Councilmember, you've definitely been on the forefront of fighting the gang problem here in the city. What about existing programs? Will they be reevaluated? Will some of them be cut from the funding?
Well, right now, no one's getting funded by this money because we don't have it yet. But every program will be reevaluated if they're already getting some, money from the city of Los Angeles. There are programs that have been getting funded that I don't know if they can actually show the kind of evaluation and success that we need to see, and they won't be eligible for this funding. Again, only programs that have been proven to work, and there's really kind of one main criteria, and that's you've kept a kid from joining a gang. You've given a real alternative, or you've helped with job training. You've got a good after-school program or before-school program. There's programs like Aztec Rising, which we saw in the city council today, that takes young people and teaches them the skills to fight fires. And when they graduate from this program, they actually have kept their lives on the straight and narrow, and they've got the kind of skills to maybe one day be hired by a fire department, and we know that makes for a great career. So we've got it pretty much set up that it won't be any fly-by-night organizations. It won't be unproven or untested organizations. They really got to show that they've been evaluated and that they meet the high standards to be eligible for this funding.
Thank you for sharing your insight on that. Now, we've been talking about cleaning up gangs, but you and your colleagues have also moved forward to clean up the Port of Los Angeles. Could you tell us a little bit about the Clean Truck program?
Yes, I'm very excited. We just adopted the Clean Truck program, and this plan does a couple things. It requires that all the trucks coming into the ports are clean trucks. They've got good, and I don't mean just they look clean or they've been washed. It means the kind of trucks that won't be emitting the kind of diesel particulates in the air that we know happens right now with dirty diesel trucks. And it will also require that all the trucks coming into the Port of Los Angeles will be driven by someone who works for a company. They will be employees of a company. And this achieves the goals of improving public health. It reduces congestion. It improves the efficiency of port trucking, makes our port more secure, and it also creates a very stable workforce. And it shifts the burden of keeping the truck maintained, the fuel, the license, the insurance. It shifts that to the company instead of the independent truck driver who at this point can barely afford to keep their trucks maintained.
So it definitely seems like a win-win situation.
It is a win-win situation. And I've really been fighting about two things since I got elected. One was dirty trucks and dirty air, and the other one was the plight of the independent truck driver. And this plan addresses both of those issues.
I see. And now there was a term mentioned during the council discussion on Tuesday called cold ironing. Now I'm assuming that has nothing to do with wrinkled clothes.
That's right. It has nothing to do with wrinkled clothes. Cold ironing is another term. We call it down at the harbor alternative maritime power, or AMP for short. And it's the concept that when a ship comes into berth, instead of sort of idling and burning bunker fuel, because when a ship comes into berth, they don't just turn off their engines. They still have a crew on board. They've got to load and unload. They've got to keep the lights on, so to speak. So instead of burning this bunker fuel to keep their engines going, they actually plug into the DWP electricity grid. And at that point that they plug in, there's absolutely no more pollution in the air. In fact, every ship that is cold ironing or, amping is equal to the reduction of emissions in the air that would be as a result of like 16,000 trucks. So it's one of the cleanest, purest, most efficient ways for our ships to be in dock here at the harbor. And one of the things that I think people don't realize is the ships contribute the majority of the air pollution in the port, and they also contribute about 20% of all the air pollution in Los Angeles. So the ships were really the biggest polluter down here. So cold ironing is a way to keep their lights on but reduce the emissions dramatically.
Well, thank you for explaining that terminology. I'm glad you used that in the incorrect context. District 15 Councilmember Janice Hahn, thank you so much for joining us today on Council Week in Review.
Thank you. My pleasure.
LA City View is the government access cable channel for the City of Los Angeles, featuring live coverage of City Council meetings and programming about City Department services and events. If you have any suggestions or comments about any of the programs you see on Channel 35 or would like to receive a free viewer guide, call our viewer hotline at 213-473-3978. We invite you to address the Los Angeles City Council on any item on the council agenda, as well as during public comment. You may come downtown to City Hall or go to the Van Nuys City Hall and participate via video teleconferencing. Remember, you can watch all Los Angeles City Council meetings live in their entirety on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, beginning at 10 a.m. On Sundays, you can watch the replay of all the week's meetings, also beginning at 10 a.m. Council Week in Review can be seen Monday through Friday at 9:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. and on Sunday at 9:30 a.m. That concludes our program for the week ending June 20th, 2008. On behalf of Jack Popejoy and everyone here at Channel 35, I'm Rasha Goel. Thank you for watching, and please join us for the next Council Week in Review.
What if one day there was a fire and help couldn't get to you? And you couldn't evacuate in time because someone had blocked the road. Don't block the road. Read the signs on Red Flag Days.
Hey, buddy. I hope that's not what I think it is. Don't you know using fireworks can result in severe injuries, burns, or even death? Even sparklers can reach temperatures of 1,200 degrees. I wouldn't do that.
Hey, buddy! The ball call!
Attend a public fireworks show and leave fireworks to professionals.
LA City View Channel 35. Your city, your channel.
ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Los Angeles City Council meeting for June 26, 2008. We're here in the John Ferraro Council Chambers, room 340 in City Hall, where we meet every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. We also get out to the Valley, to the Van Nuys Council Chambers once a month as well, usually on the first Friday of the month. I want to welcome everybody who has joined us today in Council Chambers, as well as those who are viewing us on Channel 35, LA City View, which broadcasts through the city's cable system, live coverage of our council meetings, as well as taped coverage in the evenings. We're also available online through lacity.org, so you can use your computer to watch the council meetings live, and you can also catch any of our archived footage of past meetings there online at lacity.org. Finally, you can use your telephone to listen in on council meetings by calling Council Phone. The number is 213-621-CITY, and you can listen into the council proceedings or any of the committee meetings that we have as well. If anybody would like to get an agenda, they're posted on the side and they're available in the back. They're made available to the public 72 hours in advance, 24 hours in advance for our special meetings. And if anybody would like to be heard on the items that have not yet received a public hearing in committee, fill out a speaker card in the back and hand it to one of the sergeants at arms, and we'll make sure that your comments are heard today. You also can give general public comments for items that are not on the agenda, but nevertheless under the jurisdiction of the city. In general public comment, same procedure, just fill out a card in the back, hand it to one of the sergeants at arms, and we'll make sure that we get that in the mix. Each Friday we honor important occasions and notable people in the city of Los Angeles, people who have contributed to the strength and the lifeblood of our city. And this Friday is no different. We have some very special presentations planned before we begin the official proceedings of the rest of the meeting. And I'd like to recognize our first recognition today from the great council member from the 11th District, our good friend Bill Rosendahl.
Good morning, Mr. President, members of the City Council, the great folks here in the audience. This is Gay Pride Day in the city of Los Angeles. You know, all we have is the moment, and this is our moment to be proud of who we are. Could I ask all the gay, lesbian, transgender, and bisexual people to stand up? And if I could ask, accept the honorees to come on behind me right here so that everybody can see as we speak, all of us. Come on in, not the honorees. Stay where you are, but everybody else. Come on, all of us. All of us. The world needs to know who we are, and they need to see us. Our basic human and civil rights happens as family and friends and neighbors and colleagues understand that here we are. We're not some image that some right-wing nutcase wants to make of us. We are normal, regular people, just like everybody else, who want to live and want to have our basic rights and freedoms. And we are standing tall today because 39 years ago tomorrow, we decided we had enough. And this was in New York, where there was a bar that I grew up around the corner in New Jersey, one of 8 kids, Catholic boy. I used to go to New York to Christopher Street. And when we went into the Stonewall, we were just trying to be ourselves. But of course, we always had to hide in the corners and the shadows, and nobody could know about who we were and all this kind of stuff. And so when the heat got bad, we finally said, enough is enough. And that began our public process of demanding our basic civil and human rights. We stood up and we said, we've had it, and we've been commemorating our beginning of our rebellion and our basic civil rights campaign, which is tomorrow, 39 years ago. Tomorrow, as we go forward every day, we are now in the midst of an amazing moment. We have experienced in the last 6 weeks, since May 15th, which ironically is my 63rd birthday, I couldn't believe it, that the state court said and we'll go more into detail as time goes on in this program here, that we should be treated equally and that we have the same rights and civil rights as everybody else, which has created a huge dynamic for our basic equality. We need a few more bridges to cross. First, we must be accepted as who we are, and we should have the same rights as heterosexuals, no matter what, and we should have the same benefits as heterosexuals, no matter what. And we know we're going to be into a battle in November, but we're going to win this battle in November because our friends and our families and all of our supporters will no longer let our basic civil rights be denied. And for my colleagues around me, I just want you to know that this great city council supported me when I put the marriage legislation in the past. They've also supported unanimously the Don't Ask, Don't Tell that exists right now in the military. And the mayor has performed a wedding. I've been asked to perform some weddings, and many of us stood up yesterday, actually, Eric Garcetti and Jan Perry and Jose Huizar and myself, and got sworn in so that we can hold multiple weddings between now and the end of October. So our shingle is out if anybody wants us to do that action. We're going to be taking some action today, colleagues and greater community. We're going to be talking about state legislation honoring Harvey Milk, who was a trailblazer for us. We're also going to be talking about the city of Los Angeles today, and I hope my colleagues will support me on this, that we will come out against the statewide constitutional amendment against same-sex marriage. We expect my council. Give them a round of applause for that. They haven't done it yet, but we're expecting it. Who knows? And there's Laura Chick, our great city controller, who's always been a supporter of basic human and civil rights. Thank you, Laura, for being here. And today we're going to introduce legislation. I will be putting a motion in that will proclaim June 16, 2009 Same-Sex Marriage Day in the city of Los Angeles. For these great two ladies there. And people want to know, well, do I know anybody gay? Well, Barney Frank and Tammy Baldwin in the House of Representatives are. You know that we have athletes like John Amici and Billie Jean King. We have entertainers like T.R. Knight and Ellen DeGeneres. We have writers and humorists like David Sedaris or sports writer Christine Daniels of the Los Angeles Times. And, television folks, I was there and I was out and open. And we have Pete Williams, of NBC, and also Susie Orem. And of course, one of our most famous is Gore Vidal, who has been a major planet leader on so many issues, is one of us. But there are many heroes and heroines right in our backyard, in communities we represent, and I want to recognize some of them today. This is just a small and diverse part of the exciting community that is interwoven into every neighborhood, on every block, in every line of work in Los Angeles. The mayor is on his way here, by the way, so we expect his honor to be here in a second or two. But I just wanted to introduce Deputy Mayor. Would you come over here, Helmi? I have a hard time. Hishurish? How do I say that? Yeah. Well, I just want you to know that Helmi is an open lesbian and a major player, stand right here, that represents us well. And we have a lot of commissioners, a lot of deputies. The mayor has appointed many of us to significant commissions and senior staff positions. We will go through a list of these as time goes on, and let me just mention a few of them right here, right now. Where's Mike Chin, Mayor of Redondo Beach? Mike, are you here? Well, give him a round of applause. I'm sure he's in gridlock. We have Juan Carlos, who's the staff of Congresswoman Lucille Roybal Ellard. He's here. Charles Stewart, Chief of Staff to Diane Watson, is also here. Okay? Now, city officials, we have Mercedes Marcus. She's the head, the general manager of the housing department, and her partner. Let them come up right away because the mayor married the two of them the other day so people can see who you are. Come on up front. Come on up. If you want a real leader, she's a real leader. She's absolutely an incredible lady with her great partner and provides not only role model but real leadership in our great city. Thank you so much for your leadership and what you do for all of us. And your partner, is that Myrta? Yes. Yes, there you are. Okana, who's the LA
I think it's wife
coordinator.
now.
Good to
Yes,
have
Mr.
you.
Rosendahl, I think it's wife now.
Pardon me?
I think it's wife now. No longer partner. Now that they're married,
Partner,
it's wife.
spouse.
Wife.
Everybody is a spouse. Yeah, it's a spouse for life. You know, we're all wives, we're all husbands. You know, we're spouses for life. Amen. And you know, we all take on both aspects of ourselves. In fact, it's a very evolved stance that we all take as gay people. Where's Dean Hansel? Dean, where are you? Dean Hansel, who was the Information Technology Agency and a major leader in the gay community, has been very involved. Jehem Agrama, Human Relations Commission. How did I mess that one up? Okay. Give him or her a round of applause. Michael Fleming, Convention Center Authority. Luis Lopez, East LA. Don Smith, Convention and Exhibition Center Authority. Glenn Dake, Cultural Heritage Commission. Francis Duanis, I'm terrible, Human Relations Commission. Leona Perez, Commission on the Status of Women. Tom Canas, Convention and also Exhibition Authority. Rob Saltzman. Where's Rob Saltzman? There he is. Give him a round of applause. He plays a very vital role for us on the Police Commission and keeps a very active agenda with all of our issues in the community. And it's a real pleasure to have you on that commission. Knowing we have you there is great. Thank you. Lilia Esther Garcia from the East LA APC. Is she here? APC, you know, that's the Area Planning Commission. Very important groups that make land use decisions. David Wolf from the Disability Commission. Susan Rodriguez, Convention and Exhibition Center. Raymond Methoda from the Housing Authority. And, you know, to know that is that we have, thanks to our great mayor, we have commissioners, we have department heads, we have major staffs at every level of his administration in the city. He is sexual orientation blind. He doesn't even think about that. He thinks about people that are qualified and capable. So let's give Antonio a round of applause before he shows up. He'll be on his way. Is Gloria here? Gloria Allred? Is she here? Well, Gloria, we all know, is this feisty, incredible civil rights attorney who stood with us when I was holding the chuppah at their great wedding, and she played a major role in doing that. So we want to thank Gloria. We want to thank Daryl Cummings, Chief of Staff of the Gay and Lesbian Center, Kathy Ketchum, CFO of the Gay and Lesbian Center, and Mark Sangrano of the Human Rights Commission, and all those great people. Okay, now that we've done that, we're going to start honoring many of us right here in the room. And Tori Osborne, come on up and introduce the first one. Where's Tori?
Sheila's over here.
Okay, well, Tori's here. She was here a minute ago. Where's Tori now? Anybody know? All right, well, Tori must be getting the mayor to bring him in the room. That's kind of how I see that happening here. But, you know, Tori has been a significant director report to the mayor and has played a major role in how we do things around this great city. So now let me just talk then a little bit about State Senator Sheila Kuehl. You know, let's give her a round of applause. Sheila, come a little closer to me so that everybody in the world can see you. And there we go. Look, I've known Sheila for a long time. You know, Dobie Gillis was one of my favorite shows when I was a kid. And she was Zelda. And she was out there twiddling her nose and making me laugh every time I watched that show. Well, you know, it isn't that much fun in the entertainment industry back in those days if you happen to be a gay or lesbian person. And Sheila did suffer discrimination when there was whispering campaigns about who she was. She never talks about that because she's a positive spirit. She moves on in her life. She makes a huge difference in everything she does. She became a lawyer, and then she became a trailblazer lawyer in the civil rights movement and made major headways for women and basic rights. I could go on, but I'm going to let her great friend and former super partner say a few words. Go ahead.
Significant ex. Right.
Significant ex.
Yes, she is my most significant ex.
Shiro. Sheila's accomplishments, Sheila's heart. Sheila's going through a transition because she spent 14 years doing a job that was finally big enough for her. And she's leaving. So it's an emotional time. It's a time where every single time that people who love her and respect her and know what she's given and built for the LGBT community, and frankly, for anybody who cares about healthcare reform, justice, and social change in California. This is the most successful legislator in California history in terms of, since term limits, in terms of numbers of bills signed. This is a true Governor Schwarzenegger's even signed a whole bunch of her bills. This is a true Shiro of our community and of all of California, Sheila Kuehl.
Here's the certificate. She's gotten millions of them. So what's more important is to give her an opportunity to say a few words.
Well, I'm very honored, Mr. President, members of the council, and everyone who's here, our police chief I see, and so many officials for my city, LA. As you know, all of you in public service, it's tough, but it's a privilege. Actually, you knew it would be tough, but you actually didn't know it would be so enjoyable. At least that's the way I felt. You know, Tony knows, Richard knows, certainly Wesson knows, having been speaker especially. When you, it's like going away to college. You go up to Sacramento and you leave your family here, you leave your friends of the time here, and you get there really not knowing what to expect. And since I was the first openly gay or lesbian person elected, hi, Mr. Mayor. God, I'm glad you're here for this story. I was the first openly gay or lesbian person elected to the state legislature, and I had no idea what I could expect. And when I got up to our swearing in, I was taken into the Democratic caucus, and I didn't really know anybody there. And the mayor had been elected the same year as I was, and suddenly this group of people came over to me, Mayor Villaraigosa, John Burton, Barbara Friedman, Kevin Murray. It was a distinguished group, and they said to me, hey, we don't want you to have to eat lunch by yourself, so we're the honorary gay and lesbian caucus. And it was a tough year, the first couple of years. But it has been an extraordinary privilege and pleasure, really, the past 14 years to be in the legislature. We've accomplished a lot. I mean, just in those 14 years to go from not having one law in California that protected anybody on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity to laws. Mayor Villaraigosa carried one for the employment protection. I carried one for school protection. Carol Migden, of course, established the domestic partner registry. Mark Leno ran the bills for marriage. It was such a time for us, heady and sad, giddy and disappointing. And so I am very grateful for this honor, and I can only tell you it's going to be a great future. Thank you very much.
Mr. Rosendahl, we have Mr. Reyes and Mr. Wesson wanted to, do you want to speak on this part, Mr. Reyes? Okay, Mr. Reyes and then Mr. Wesson, I think, wanted to add their good wishes for Ms. Kuehl as well, for State Senator.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to rise and what can I say? Thank you so much for everything you've done. In my district, we have such challenges, given that 40% of that district is at or below poverty. And the issues you raise is about humans. It's about human value, about human needs. And many of the kids, many of the children, many of the single moms, many of the folks who are suffering under these housing conditions, the way they need to travel just to get to the hospital, all these elements add to the type of pressures that build up. And we see it manifested in the gangs. We see it manifested in the dropout rate. We see it manifested in how ignorant some folks can be when they don't understand what this pressure does to people. But you're one of those voices that creates clarity. You put forth a very clear picture of what the facts mean. And for that, I thank you, because the whole state is listening, and the state needs to respond. And as Bill said, hopefully in November, the nation will hear. Thank you so much.
Mr. Wesson.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I rise because this is a phenomenal day and a phenomenal time. I never thought that I would see this occur, and that here, and it's, this is just such a great state that the winds of this country blow from the, west to the east, and it's important that California is helping to set an agenda that hopefully the rest of the country will join in. Plus, on a personal note, where it relates to being able to be married, everybody deserves to have mother-in-laws, and I'm glad now. Yeah, we'll be over drinking. Oh boy, that tells me I'm no. But I had the pleasure. I am who I am. I had the pleasure to spend 6 years in the legislature with Sheila Kuehl. She was a dear friend, and for those of you that hear us when we are together, she never calls me Wesson. It's Wesson, which is French, and I do my best to call her Kuehl. We are connected very, very closely. And I do want to just add this, because it was so amazing to me, and the mayor can attest to this. I've never, and I've got smart colleagues here on the council, but I never saw a person who could take a piece of legislation when we're on the floor debating it, an issue that isn't her issue, an issue that maybe a person like me needed some help on, and she would read it, and in 60 seconds, you would think that she wrote the bill, because she could articulate your position, and one of the first allies you tried to get was Sheila Kuehl. But lastly, I just want to say a few things on a serious note. I grew up with I have several members of my family that are gay or lesbian. And as a child, two of my uncles and my twin cousins that were a little younger than I, they're gone now, and I don't have to tell you what took them. But for most of their life, they had to live a lie. For most of their life, and I'm telling you, my uncles were one was a carpenter and he was bad. My other uncle was a principal of a school in New York. He should not have had to live in the closet. My cousins, one again was a carpenter. The other one was the first black firefighter in the city of Shaker Heights, Ohio. They shouldn't have had to live that way. And when I was a kid, like many of us, I see many of you are my age, we can remember Dr. King saying that people should be judged by the content of their character and not by the color of their skin. I never, even though I believe that with all my heart, I never thought that I would be blessed to live long enough to see that begin to happen. But when you look at these presidential primaries and the two candidates that we had a chance to choose from, you can see that people are beginning to judge people based on who they are, not who they sleep with. With this action here, we can see this great country is moving in a direction where maybe one day we will truly reach the potential where you will judge your friends I like you, Sheila, just because I like you. I have 3 members of the gay and lesbian community that work for me. I didn't hire them for that reason. I hired them because they're good. And that's the day. I can't wait till the day comes when we don't even have to have this discussion. We don't even have to talk about this. So anyway, I had to rise, not just because Sheila, I have other friends that are in the room, but this is a great day for California, and I think we're sending a great message to the rest of this great country. Would you guys do me a personal favor and give yourselves one hell of a round of applause?
Thank you very much, Mr. Wesson. And colleagues, we have 3 more speakers on the queue. I know there's a number of different awards, and don't worry, Mr. Rosendahl, who's been, we spoke ahead of time about this. This doesn't count on your time at all. Don't worry. We're going to have plenty of time for the rest of your presentation. But colleagues, we will be having a number of other presentations from Mr. Rosendahl on this month as well. So folks would like to say any kind words about Ms. Kuhl. We'll start with Mr. Alarcon.
Well, I hope you know that that's more comments from Herb Wesson than in the last 2 months. There must be something he really believes in. He calls her Kuhl, I call her cool, because long before it was cool, Sheila was cool. And she paid the price for being cool. She stood up and said, I am what I am, and they fired her, and they blacklisted her, and they said, you don't belong in our industry. Well, that was before most of us were born. I was alive. I'm old enough. But most of the people of Los Angeles, quite frankly, who are younger than the Dobie Gillis show, don't recall that. And so it's important. No, I'm not going to move on, because it's important for the young people to understand the struggle that Sheila went through, and the struggle that everybody went through during that time, and still today we are struggling. And so I did expect it to happen. I just wish it happened 10, 20, 30 years ago, because it's very simple to me. You cannot deny love, and you cannot deny that someone in their time of need would want to have their loved one present, and to see that you cannot be involved in certain situations with your loved one simply because you don't have a marriage certificate, and yet you are the person that person who is dying would like to have at their side, cannot be there. That is trying to deny love, and I think it is a mortal sin. And so I believe that Sheila is the epitome of the struggle. She's the epitome of the success, and she is the epitome of the movement. And we owe her a tremendous debt of gratitude as a society. And I know that she's going to continue in that struggle, continue to send that message. And you know, I have to tell you, having served with Sheila in the Senate, she didn't go over to the assembly and do this. I mean, first of all, if she supported a bill, you know, it's like, okay, I'll support it. But when we were in the caucus, it's like, okay, what does Sheila think? And that didn't say which way the caucus would go, but we always wanted to know what she thought. Well, as a society, I think it's time that we all respect each other. And not just say, well, what does this person think, what does that person think, but what do we all think? And I think we'll do a much better job. Sheila, it's been a pleasure to be your friend. It's been a pleasure to, and by the way, we were great admirers of you when you were Zelda, but even greater admirers of you as a legislator and as a statesperson for the state of California. I am absolutely hopeful that her greatest achievement is yet to come. Universal health care in the United States of America. And I really believe that that day will come too, so that you can see it, Sheila, because it's got to happen. So thank you so much for allowing us to honor you. Keep on trucking. I know you will, and we love you. Take care.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alarcon. Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sheila, as they say, you've come a long way, baby. That's what they say, a long, long way. You stand here, Mayor of the City of Los Angeles, the Chief of Police of the City of Los Angeles, the community of Los Angeles. What you have done in the community that we both share, you're the senator, I'm the council member, The community has never, ever brought up anything negative about you. It's always been positive. The accomplishments that you have made, the issues that you have discussed, the issues that you have pursued in that area that you represent on the California State Senate. And I just want to acknowledge the good that you've done. And I always think of you in that Porsche, because I've seen you drive around in that vintage Porsche. You brought it today. I've got a 1969 Porsche that I've had since it was new. I know you've got that vintage Porsche, and I always think of you cruising around in that Porsche, just driving down the street, driving down Pacific Coast Highway, and representing the people in an effective manner, in a fashionable manner that really speaks for people's rights, for people's dignity, for the people of the state of California. So congratulations, and it's a pleasure to stand and support you and the group that's here today. And I will tell you, when I joined the police department in 1968, you wouldn't see the chief of police coming out, you wouldn't see the elected officials coming out, you wouldn't see this type of acknowledgement. So when I say you've come a long way, baby, I'm sincere. You've come a long way and a long way to go. God bless you, and thank you for all you've done.
Thank you, Mr. Rosen. I think some other members will speak at the end of the entire presentation, but go ahead, Mr. Rosendahl. Thank you.
Great. Well, Sheila, first of all, you're going to sit right there on the throne where you belong, always on the throne, always on the top of the world. Her positive spirit, frankly, engulfs all of us, no matter what the issue is, no matter what the situation is. And her brilliance, frankly, we learn things from Sheila every day, and keep fighting that fight for health care and keep fighting the fight for all those things. We're going to miss you up in Sacramento. You've been a true leader. Bless you.
Thank you, Billy.
Now, as you all know, I was saying that the mayor this and the mayor that before, and what I was saying, Mr. Honorable Mayor, is that the commissioners, the general managers, and all of these gay and lesbian folks of power, you didn't ask if they were gay or lesbian. You wanted people that were qualified to do jobs who happened to be gay, and you made a huge, huge improvement in politics and city government by your leadership and your non-discriminating behavior and your basic commitment to our civil and human rights. It's an honor to introduce you, Your Honor, the Mayor of Los Angeles.
So with all those kind words, that means I get my eggs this week.
You got a dozen there.
A dozen eggs this week. That's great. Thank you, Bill Rosendahl. I like to call Bill the conscience of our wonderful council. Bill is always there on tough issues, always speaking out with the courage of his convictions. I want to acknowledge you for having this celebration today and sponsoring this. This is a long time coming, and I want to acknowledge you and the council for doing that. And of course, as always, it's always great to be here with my colleagues on the council. Thank you for allowing me to be here today. I have to say something, though, about Billy Rosendahl, because many of you know that Billy, just the other day, received the Man of the Year by the Christopher Street West organization that sponsors the Gay Pride Parade in West Hollywood. And as a former honoree myself, some 10 years ago or however long it was, I know the pride that I have knowing that I'm acknowledged by an organization, as you were, that recognizes what you've done in the gay and lesbian community, but what you've done on so many issues of human and civil rights overall. And so on behalf of my office, I'd like to acknowledge Billy and for this wonderful acknowledgement. Many of you didn't even know that he received this award. He did it very quietly. He was also the Man of the Year, I think, in Brentwood News.
I'm the rock star.
The rock star. The rock star.
Political rock star.
The political rock star. So, a rock star you are, and on behalf of the city, I want to acknowledge you for helping to put this event together as well.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And I'd also like to thank the many brave couples, including Robin Tyler and Diane Olson, who helped us get where we are today. We would not be here celebrating the expansion of civil rights in California without their courage, without their willingness to stem or to go against the tide, and I want to acknowledge them as well. The great state of California has, since its inception, been synonymous with freedom, with liberty, and the fundamental right to pursue happiness. Individual freedom and liberty defines us as Americans. And you said something, someone whispered in my ear that Sheila was smart, and I said, no, Sheila, I am smart. Sheila's brilliant. Sheila would get up on the floor on so many issues, but particularly on this issue, at a time in California when many just would get up and say the most horrible things on the floor of the legislature, the most vile and degrading things. And sometimes they'd say it to her, though not always saying it directly. And I can tell you, watching her with the dignity which she advocated for freedom, for equality, watching her bear those indignities and speak as eloquently as she did on the floor of the legislature, you couldn't help but be proud. And I've served with many members, and when people ask me who are my heroes and some of my role models, I always put Sheila Kuehl on the list. So I want to acknowledge you among the many honorees as a woman who without question blazed the frontier that helped us to be where we are today. Thank you. And you know, I've said this many times, like my friend, the former Speaker and Council Member Herb Wesson, and like everybody, virtually everybody around this horseshoe, we all have family members who are gay or lesbian or bi. We all have family members who yearn for the family that we have, who yearn to love, to marry, to be able to raise children, to be able to celebrate what we think is fundamental to who we are as human beings. A human right, not just a civil right, a basic human right. And I was proud as a Californian to have witnessed history in the making when a California Supreme Court, a court that nobody can call a progressive or liberal court, a conservative court by every estimation, notwithstanding that conservatism, stood for the idea that the right to marry, that marriage equality is fundamental to who we are as Californians and as Americans. And I'll tell you, that was a proud moment for us. Because, you know, today it's not hip, cool, or legal, by the way, to discriminate based on race or ethnicity or religion. You know, nobody would boldly and bold-facedly discriminate in that way. And yet, many still believe it's okay to discriminate against people based on their sexual orientation. And I used to say when I would stand up and speak right after Sheila Kuehl, because I was almost always the second person to speak on all of those issues, and stood up with her. I never spoke as eloquently as she did, but I'd say, you know, this is the last frontier, the last frontier of the civil rights movement. The one area where people in churches, people on street corners, and yes, people in the California legislature think they could still get up and speak in terms that are so vile and ugly. And yet, what we have today is we finally crossed that threshold. We finally have said here that we're not going to be a state that allows barriers for anyone. And I've often believed, and I know it's been said many times, that when we open up the door for one of us, we open up the door for all of us. The civil rights movement has put us all in the position that we have today. We have women today, and we didn't have very many women. We need more, but we didn't have very many women on the city council or boards of supervisors of the California legislature. The color that we have today, the mayor of Los Angeles, the speaker of the California State Assembly, those are things that didn't happen before the Civil Rights Act. And so when we opened up those doors, we said to the children of California and across the nation that I can too. Yes, I can, or as we say in Spanish, si se puede. And that's why this is so important. And I thought it was important for me to come by to acknowledge Billy Rosendahl and the council for what we do here today, to acknowledge those among us who have helped to break the barriers, open the doors, create the new frontier that says here in California, never again will we countenance discrimination de jure. That here in California, the right to marry is as fundamental as the pursuit of happiness. And I'm just happy to be here with all of you and acknowledge this very important day.
Good. Mayor, here you go. Enjoy.
My eggs.
He has to earn the eggs, folks. It's a little private story, as you heard him call me Billy. Well, he's Tony Rapper, and he's also Bro. So you just know we have these relationships, which are critical, really, to make things happen. That you got to get personal, you got to get there, and you have to have a sense of real togetherness here. I'm going to ask our Chief of Police, Bill Bratton, to come up, and also Commissioner Rob Saltzman to come up. And let me say a few words. We have a police chief, frankly. One day we were in a little bit of a discussion about some issues in our community, and he said, Bill, I have a lesbian sister, and I truly understand what it's all about. It had to do with somewhat, I felt, discrimination against us, and he was right there. But what I've seen him do in the police department, there's still some men and women closeted, I'll admit, but most of them are out, and they're up there, and they're proud of who they are, and they've made a huge difference for us to know that we have our own folks in uniform, and that we're not going to get just discriminated against, which we have been in the past by police action. This is an incredible police chief that has made a huge difference with us. And I'm going to let him now get up and talk about the honoree that we're now going to honor, who is a great captain right out there, Captain Nito. Mr. Chief, up there. It's all yours.
Thank you. Good morning. Bill, thank you for those remarks, but I'm privileged actually, as Chief of Police, to follow in the footsteps of my predecessors. Bernard Parks, during his time as Chief, was adamant in moving these issues forward during his time, created the Gay Lesbian Forum, which now still continues, and made it quite clear that the Los Angeles Police Department stood front and center on this issue, the issue of fairness, both within our ranks, but also in enforcing the laws in the city of Los Angeles. Privileged here today to stand with one of my captains, who is now over in our Hollenbeck area, our patrol captain. Tina Nieto is also the first Latina to achieve the rank of captain in the Los Angeles Police Department. She's here with her lovely partner, and the good news is that she's not alone in the senior ranks of the Los Angeles Police Department. We have a number of senior ranking officers who are proud also to be gay lesbians, and it is my privilege to lead a department that truly is committed to these issues, to the issues of civil rights and human rights, as the mayor referenced. So I want to thank Councilmember Rosendahl and all of you here this morning for this day and this acknowledgement. We're quite proud of her, and she's quite proud of who she is, justifiably so.
Thank you very much, Chief. And now we're going to ask the captain to say a few words and introduce us to your partner as well. Come on up close.
Hi, I'm Captain Tina Nieto, and this is my partner, Cheryl Kent. We've been partners for 10 years, so I don't know if we're going to take it to the next level. That's kind of scary. So.
Is that a proposal?
Cheryl is also with the Los Angeles Police Department. She works West LA Division. She's a sergeant out in the field, and so was I allowed to say that, dear? No? Okay. When I found out that I was being honored here today, my first reaction was that of surprise, because I thought, well, what have I done in the movement? And I had to really think back about 20 years ago when I first joined the department, and it wasn't okay to be gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender. And so I had to think about it, and that's a good thing. And it's a good thing because it doesn't seem to be an issue anymore with the Los Angeles Police Department, thanks to former Chief Parks and Chief Bratton, who has done wonderful things for our community. Sir, thank you. But I also believe that we can't rest on our laurels because I think that it's up to the next generation where it's not such a big issue to continue on with the human rights movement of making things more fair. And I think it was a big step with the gay in marriage that was passed, the lawsuit, and thank you. But again, looking back again 20 years ago, I have to thank my partner of 20 years ago. Her name was Vicki Posey. She's no longer with the LAPD. She left and to move back with her partner back to Tennessee. But I remember on that fateful day we were down in Venice Beach. I was a very young police officer. I had about a year and a half on. And she said, Tina, a whole bunch of us are coming out because it's the right thing to do. And being young, I said, okay, I'm there with you because of my loyalty to my beat partner, and came out with the group that did so. And I'm thankful for that because we really have come a long way since then, and it isn't such a big issue. So Chief Bratton, if you could please continue to support gay and lesbians, transgender and bisexual officers to feel okay on the department. Like the chief said, there's other people like me on the department, and I'm hoping my wish as I speak to them privately is that they become more visible so they can be that mentor and that role model for the younger generations to say it's okay to be who you are. So thank you.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. And I'd like to recognize, while you're taking the photograph, Mr. Huizar to say a few comments as well. Mr. Huizar.
I certainly wanted to get up and acknowledge the great work that Captain Nieto has done at the Hollenbeck Division. In just her short time that she's been there, she's been a tremendous asset to the community. Is always available, always at every major community event. And let me tell you, for the first Latina captain at Hollenbeck Division, you see that glow in young Latinas in the community to say, I could do that one day, and you are certainly a role model in our community. So thank you, Captain Nieto, for your hard work. You're doing a tremendous job at Hollenbeck Division. And also, Bill, thank you for having us here today, second annual. We've seen a lot of progress. We have state senators, editors of major newspapers, officers here, and just this last election, we elected our first gay man from the east side to the assembly, and that is progress as well. A lot of progress. Hopefully next year we'll see a lot more people here because this is, as Mr. Weston said, a very important day for Los Angeles, and it's great that we're here doing it on Channel 35 throughout the city of Los Angeles. People can see that we are proud of who we are, no matter who we are. So congratulations and thank you very much. And thank you, Captain Nieto, for all the work you do.
Mr. Reyes?
I just want to rise and thank Captain Nieto as well. We chatted a little at Sacred Heart, and I find out that your grandfather's from Lincoln Heights. Yes. And so to be able to come back and share those roots, and as Councilman Huizar says, to be that role model means a lot to our children and our youth who really need to see the positive messages coming from a person like yourself, Captain. So thank you, and thank you, Chief, and Chief Parks, for everything you've done to get us to this point. Thank you so much.
Just from a political standpoint, it's good to see Bernard Parks and Bill Bratton on the same wavelength and being real positive together. So us gay people know how to bring people together. And we've been able to do that. Very good, very good, very good. Because we're all in this together. A lot of commonality there, folks. And we were all looking at each other when we heard that compliment coming around. And that's what we need to do, is love one another. Phil Wilson, who is not here, but come on up, Aaron Myers, to do this. Phil Wilson is a dear friend of mine. I've known Phil for 30 years. He's an African-American leader. He was one of the few to come out when it wasn't at all the right thing to do. He's the founder and executive director of the Black AIDS Institute. The Institute is a training and mobilization center focused exclusively on black people. The African Americans suffer a lot because of a lot of ministers who throw God in a negative way into their face and create a dynamic that is not healthy. Because remember this, folks, God created nature, and God makes no mistake. So when Phil got up there and became a significant leader, it was a trailblazing. And he served, frankly, in this city as our first AIDS coordinator. And he was also with the Policy and Planning Project for many years. And he has obviously continued his great work. And we're going to have him before us one of these days again. And he's now the co-founder of the National Black, Lesbian, and Gay Leadership Forum and the National Task Force on AIDS Prevention. So God bless you, Phil, and come on up, Aaron, and accept it for him. Aaron, bless you. Thank you. Just tell him to say hi right there in this guy here. One thing I want to say about Phil, again, was that our basic civil rights movement took a huge step in the right direction when this expression people used to say all the time, I've never met anybody who's gay. And my generation, of course, and those older than me still say that. And if you look at these polls, seniors seem to be, disconnected from the rest of us about this. And that's basically because coming out for us who are in our 60s and 70s, wasn't popular. But what happened in AIDS was that family and friends met someone, be it their uncle, their aunt, their cousin, their brother, their sister, their dad, who happened to be gay, that would have taken it to their grave, like many of us did, as the deep secret. But AIDS pushed us out of our closet for obvious reasons, and before you knew it, people began to say, I know someone who's gay. It's my brother. It's my uncle. My first partner, Christopher Lee Blauman, grew up in a little nowhere place in Ohio where they never heard of gay people. But when he died, the mayor of L.A., was Dick Reardon, and all these elected officials sent 19 bouquets to the funeral parlor in a little town, Geneva, Ohio. And when my family and I walked in to see him, the room was packed with people who had no idea who he was until they began to see all of those bouquets from all kinds of people acknowledging my partner. And that was a basic civil rights move right in that little town of Geneva. And I will forever remember the look on people's faces when they realized the person they loved so much happened to be gay. And that dramatic impact that Phil Wilson continued to do through the early days and the greater days will always be remembered by us who have suffered through what we consider a tremendous Holocaust of our people in the 80s and the 90s. And give Phil my love again. Thank you. We only have been able to move so far in part because we have had people in the media. People in the media who said enough is enough, and I'm going to connect people to each other. I'm going to communicate with people to each other. I'm going to give a forum where our views, our attitudes, our sense of self can be explored and discussed. This feisty journalist lady that I've known for many, many years, used to be on my show as well, would go to every press conference in every situation. Didn't have to be a gay or lesbian event, but as an open lesbian to ask about issues and to talk about issues. I don't have to look at any notes. I want to introduce Karen Oakham, who's getting the award as one of the outstanding journalists. As you can see, she gets a standing ovation because we all stand tall next to Sheila. She's made it... Sheila, right. Karen and Sheila. Where's Karen and Karen? There's Sheila over there. These are two great ladies of my life as well. So here you go, babe. You're up.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, Bill. I really appreciate it, and I thank you very much for inaugurating this month, this recognition of LGBT Pride. I also want to thank my publishers and my editors and reporter from In and Frontiers who are here, and my friend Diane Abbott, who's representing Equality California, is here, and a number of people. I mean, what great company to be honored in. You know, I have been covering this community for a long time, and that means I've been covering some of you for a long time, and I have the pictures to prove it. I have a great picture of Dennis Zine wearing leather, riding a motorcycle with Eric Garcetti on the back at our gay pride event, and you know, everybody was going, say what? What are they trying to say? What image is that? I also, you know, I also want to acknowledge Councilmember Parks. You know, it was such a great big deal when Willie Williams took over as a police chief and came down to the LA Gay and Lesbian Center. It was a huge, huge deal. And when Chief Parks, when Bernie Parks became chief, I was like the second interview he did, and that just said volumes to the LGBT people in law enforcement. And you know, given our history with Stonewall and given our history with the creation of West Hollywood, and in many respects was because so many people were fleeing from the LAPD into the county. That was just such a huge, monumental step. So I want to thank you for the progress you have brought to our community from within the LAPD. And of course, Chief Bratton was here talking about that as well. And he too has made tremendous strides. I would not be a journalist, however, and in good standing if I didn't also take note that we're not done with our civil rights here. There's still work to be done. I applaud all the work that the LAPD has done and the Police Commission has done, but I do want to remind you that there is still this issue with the Boy Scouts, and it's not really fair for the LAPD to recruit in the pages of our news magazines and promise, please come and have a wonderful life in the LAPD. And yet, if these youth come and apply and go into the Explorer program, if they go and compete in another state, they're subject to anti-gay slurs in those other states. So in some way, shape, or form, these are issues that have been brought to you by Dean Hansel and by Shelley Freeman and, of course, by a number of us. And at some point, it needs to be resolved because the Boy Scouts are a private religious organization that prides itself on being anti-gay. And through the Explorer Scout program, this city that prides itself on human rights and on supporting LGBT people is in effect still supporting the Boy Scouts. So I beseech you to please take a look at that issue again, and of course I'll be watching you looking at the issue, and which is my job. And one last thing, I want to acknowledge Phil Wilson, because Phil Wilson is a person living with AIDS. HIV for many, many years, and I covered him when he appeared at this table in 1990 as the second LA AIDS commissioner, and he was refuting a quote-unquote AIDS expert who came before you and said that AIDS was airborne. And that expert was brought to you by Councilmember Holden, who came out of his own experience of thinking that of equating HIV with tuberculosis. After Councilmember Holden introduced this expert, he sat down next to me over here and flirted with me, which hello, I'm a lesbian reporter. Get a clue. So that's the first time I've ever actually acknowledged that, but I mean, we all come from all these different places, but But the progress that's been made on HIV and AIDS is really critical. But again, there's still progress to be made. There's a crystal meth epidemic, not only in the LGBT community and especially in communities of color, but also in the gay community. And crystal meth, as you know, lowers inhibitions, and then that leads to risky sexual behavior. So if there's any way, shape, or form that you can bring your resources to bear on that issue, you'll be saving lives there too. So thank you very much for this recognition. I appreciate being in such good company. I appreciate my friends and family and bosses being here, and thank you very much.
You're the best. You're the best. Yeah, sure. Another great journalist, Greg Hernandez. Greg is also a journalist and is a perfect marriage for old-fashioned reporter and internet-savvy journalist. He has spent the past 7 years at the Los Angeles Daily News covering the biggest news in this company town, the entertainment industry. Long, one of the only openly gay journalists in his newsroom, he had helped bring a sensitive LGBT issues to the city's second largest paper. Greg initiated coverage of LA's Outfest Film Festival and the GLAAD Awards and other programs related to us, gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender. I have a trouble always saying all that. Just us here. 2 years ago, this coming Monday, he launched his Out in Hollywood blog, which has consistently been the most popular non-sports blog on thedailynews.com, with more than 2 million visits since its inception. That's huge. That's huge. The blog covers all of the gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender celebrities, entertainment news, and gives an inside and often personal look at being a gay man covering Hollywood. Due to the success of his blog, the Daily News has given him a column that runs 7 days a week on page 2 of this newspaper. Again, a journalist that is making a huge difference in our basic human and civil rights, connecting us to the issues, helping us understand the issues, and most important, giving strength to other gays and lesbians to see as a role model and helping us go forward with our lives. It's a pleasure and an honor to honor you. Greg Hernandez, beautiful with your blue outfit on.
Paparazzi.
Mr. Parks, did you want to be heard right now? I'm sorry, Mr. Parks. Is that right?
I wanted to just talk about all at the end.
Sorry?
I would just want to make some comments at the end.
Oh, at the end. Okay, we'll hold on to the end then. Absolutely.
Do I go first?
Please go ahead.
Why do I have to follow Karen? Come on. I want to call up some friends and supporters of mine. Melissa Lallam, the managing editor of the Daily News. The legendary Ron Kay, great mentor of mine. And Beth Barrett, one of the best reporters in this town. She's filming, but I want her back here. And I just called them up because I just feel like I want to share this with them because they sat through this whole thing with me. But I love them because they also stood by me as we've started all these different things. And I've been a journalist for 13 years before I came to the Daily News at one of those other papers around the block. And when I started this job, I really wanted to be an openly gay man. I wanted to write about the things that were important to my life and to the people I knew. I didn't want to be invisible. And I wanted us to have a presence in a newspaper where we didn't really have a presence. And I don't know that we have a big presence in a lot of newspapers. And so over the years, it's just steadily grew and grew. And without Ron and Melissa, they're so innovative and supportive. And I say, hey, I got this idea. Go ahead. Do it. And they understood it. They understood about unleashing, me as a gay journalist and letting me, just trusting me to write about what's important to us, what I think straight allies and straight people should know about us, what they can learn about us. And to also celebrate our accomplishments. I've written plenty about Karen because she's always breaking important stories. Wilson Cruz over there, I've done many interviews with him because he's very groundbreaking, and you'll hear all about that. And a lot of the people you mentioned earlier, Ellen DeGeneres, John Amici, all these out people, they've all been profiled in the blog and in the column. So it's great. I said Ellen already.
Yes, you did.
I thought I'd throw that in there again. But anyway, it's just a thrill to be doing what I do at this time in our history. And I agree with Karen, so much more to do. We celebrate our triumphs, but we know that there's a lot more, a long ways to go. So anyway, that's it. But just these guys here, I just love them so much, and I'm so grateful for their support. Thank you.
And before we continue, Madam Clerk, we do have quorum. Will you please just call the roll so we can... Hold on one second.
Alicorn, Cardenas, Gruhl, Hahn, Weezer, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Weiss, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti. 11 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. We'll return to Mr. Rosendahl.
Yes, I'm going to just pull this out of order and talk about Wilson Cruz. And let me just say this. When Rock Hudson came out of his closet through the AIDS epidemic, talking about connecting, and people say, oh, my God, him too? You know, that kind of dynamic, dramatic actor coming out was a huge, serious plus for us in our basic civil rights. But here we have a young man who is a role model to the community, who frankly has the courage to come out. It's still not easy to come out if you're an actor. Because the roles that they want to pigeonhole you in, the opportunities that they won't give you because you're out is big. So I know a lot of closeted celebrity types who, frankly, it's because of their own survival. They can't just get up and get out and expect to be in the next movie where they play this macho hetero without causing problems. So it takes a special individual, a special person who's willing to say, this is not going to be something that I'm going to be concerned with, and I'm going to say a little bit about him for the record. With roles in Broadway production of Rent and on television's My So-Called Life, Noah's Ark, Party of Five, West Wing, and ER, Wilson Cruz is one of the most popular and well-known GLBT actors of his generation. But even more than the roles he plays, Wilson is known for his passionate commitment to our community and to our youth. At 19, Wilson came out to his parents, first to his mother and then his father. While his mother was initially hurt and shocked, she eventually accepted the news. His father, however, threw him out of the house. Like many young gays and lesbians are thrown out, he spent the next few months living in his car and at homes of friends. After coming out, Wilson went to Hollywood to seek work as an openly gay young actor. In 1994, he was cast in My So-Called Life. In one episode, his character, Ricky, came out to his parents and was violently thrown out of the house. Wilson is especially concerned with our youth of color. Most recently, he has volunteered his time as host for the Youth Zone, an online community for GLBT youth. This year, Wilson was the keynote speaker at the University of Illinois at Chicago's Lavender Graduation and Rainbow Banquet honoring graduating LGBT students. It's a great honor and privilege for me to introduce you to Wilson Cruz.
Thank you very much. I have to say I'm overwhelmed by this honor. Woke up a little early this morning after working, so forgive me. But it says a lot about this city that we stand here, we sit here in this room, this Howard Hall, and have the opportunity to hear our representatives speak so eloquently to our issues and speak to us as a community so beautifully. And I can't help but think of and at least acknowledge a time when that was never possible or even thought of. But for me, to be here in my adopted home of Los Angeles. A boy from Brooklyn, parents of two parents, two Puerto Rican parents, a first generation born in the United States, and to be sitting in this hall, honored for my work and for all of these things that this great man has mentioned, is an incredible honor for me. And to be surrounded by these amazing people, many of which are my personal heroes, is incredibly humbling and overwhelming. I came out 14 years ago. I'm no longer the young kid that Bill was talking
Still
about.
young to me.
Well, moisturize. You know, I can't help but look back at these 14 years and think about the 10-year-old boy who all he wanted to do was go to Hollywood and pursue his dream. And as I got older, the part of that dream was being able to do it completely openly and honestly, so that I can do the work that I really needed to do. As an openly gay actor, I can tell you the best thing about my job is the fact that I can use every part of me to tell the stories that I've been allowed to tell, and to represent this amazing community, and especially young gay men of color. I thank them for the opportunity to tell their stories. I thank you for letting me be here today, and I'm completely honored. As I was getting dressed this morning, I went to go put on a tie, and I saw this red tie, and I thought, you know, there was a day many, many years ago, decades ago really, when the only way that gay men acknowledged that they were gay or let other gay men know that they were gay was by wearing a red tie. And I'm so proud and grateful to be living in a time when we can wear the red tie, mainly because it's really cute. This one's by Ben Sherman, by the way. But and lastly, I just wanted to say to Sheila Kuehl how incredibly inspiring she is to me. And I met Sheila many, many years ago, right after I came out of the closet, at a Project 10 ceremony event. And she pulled me aside and told me how incredibly proud she was of me. And I'll never forget that. And if I can do half as much with my life that you have, then I will consider myself pretty successful. So I thank you, and I thank all the other honorees for letting me be among you. Thank you.
What an honor for me to be standing here honoring all these incredible people, you know. Rodney Scott. Rodney Scott has been running the Christopher Street West, the group that runs the annual Gay Pride Festival and Parade in West Hollywood. This event draws over 400,000 people annually, and the event and the organization has grown and prospered financially under Rodney's direction. Rodney currently works with the United Center of Spiritual Living, a global faith-based organization where he is in charge of the organization's financial, development, and marketing and communication activities. Prior to joining the United Center for Spiritual Living, Scott worked as a political consultant for local and statewide campaigns. Rodney also serves as a commissioner in West Hollywood in the Business Licensing Commission. I had the pleasure of working with him just most recently on the Gay Pride Festival. And as we said in the rotunda to ourselves, that is an empowering experience for tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of gays and lesbians who come from all over the place to come to that festival. In fact, some of us basically come out at that event, meeting other people of similar backgrounds from rural areas, from urban areas, and we feel we're safe among ourselves, and it has grown into an incredible expression of our gay pride. It is an honor to honor Rodney Scott.
To be able to stand before you and acknowledge the hundreds of thousands upon people who have marched down Hollywood Boulevard and Santa Monica Boulevard, just simply say, we're here. To take a moment and to say that we're gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgendered people, and we're here. To stand before you and say that I'm an openly gay man, and I'm here. And I can't imagine what it's like or what it would have been like when I grew up in Richard Alicon's district. As a young man, to stand in my junior high school and say, I'm here, I'm gay. But today I get to. Today I get to say that I have a right to be married. Today I have a right, the same rights and privileges as my family does. Today I get to stand next to our Man of the Year, Councilmember Bill, a man who has shown incredible courage and leadership, who's demonstrated that it doesn't matter who you are, but the character of what you bring to the table. That I get to stand next to my mentor and friend, Sheila Kuehl, who sat me down one day, as she said, I think she has sat us all down, has she not? And said, believe in your dreams. Believe in your dreams and never settle. To be able to be part of a city like West Hollywood that shows up and supports our Pride celebration, where people get to come out and be who they are. To all of our council members. To our sponsors like IN and Frontiers, who make a difference. Our board is an all-volunteer board, and this event that many of you have ridden in, and Dennis Ein, thank you for your motorcycle and your leather gear, because it does make it a little bit more interesting for us. But to the board of directors and to our staff, many of them who are here, that this organization could not be possible without their incredible leadership and their vision. I'm going to thank Karen for holding our feet to the fire, for asking us to do better. And I want to do a special thank to your president and our president, Eric Garcetti. Under his leadership and his vision, he ensured that there was a bronze plaque placed on Hollywood Boulevard where we stepped onto the streets to declare who we were. And he ensured that there was a bronze plaque placed on the corner there where our founders stepped off. So I want to thank you, President Garcetti, so much. I want to thank all of the people who show up for Pride, and Tori Osborne and Steve Smith for their incredible support and leadership, and to Herb Wesson, who every year, makes a point to show up and seek me out, to give me a simple hug and a thank you. Thanks us for doing this festival and this parade. So Councilmember Herb, thank you. And most of all, I want to thank all of you for the victory that we'll see in November. Because this victory is not my victory. It is our victory. And it belongs to all of us. So thank you very much.
Most eloquent. I know, colleagues, we have to keep a quorum. We have to do business. We have two more quick ones to do, but they're not going to be that quick because they're so significant. First of all, I want to talk about Suzanne Naputu.
May I do one thing then for 1 minute just to go run through the agenda and call the special items? It'll just take 1 minute.
Very good.
Okay,
Go
let's
for
do
it.
that. Madam
Yeah.
Clerk, if we can run through the agenda, we'll come back to the other orders of business.
Approval of the minutes.
All right, Mr. Alacon moves, Mr. Cardenas seconds without objection. Those are approved. Next order of business.
Next are commendatory resolutions for approval.
Okay, Ms. Hahn moves, Mr. Weezer seconds. Next, if we can run through the agenda, please.
Items 1 through 5 are items noticed for public hearings. These are street lighting ordinances. Recommendation for council is to continue hearings and present the ordinances on July 18th.
Okay, we'll do that without objection. Let's call one special. We do have a card from the public, so we'll add that to the hearing that is going to be continued. But before we continue that, items 2 to 5 will continue till the 18th without objection. Next items, please.
Suzanne, come on.
Next are items 6 through 12, and those are items which public hearings have been held.
Okay, anybody wishing to call specials? Mr. Weezer?
Very nervous.
Sorry?
11?
11 from Mr. Weezer.
And just speak from the heart.
Other specials? If not, let's go ahead and take the balance, please. Move the motions on 10 and 12. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
6 and 7 will go to a second reading of the ordinance. The others will carry, and we'll send all items forthwith without objection today. Next item, please.
Next are items 13 through 29, and those are items which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, let's go ahead. Anybody wishing to... Do we have cards from the public on any of those?
Yes, there are cards on 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 23, 25, 28, and 29.
Okay, we'll call those special cards to the public. Mr. Alarcon?
Since the suspect has been apprehended, I ask that item 24 be received and filed.
Okay, thank you. We'll receive and file 24 without objection. We can take up the balance, please. Please open the roll.
Mr. President, there's a request for 22 and
For Mr. Rosendahl, we'll call 22 special, and we have 28 special already from cards from the public, and Mr. Rosendahl as well. If we can open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. We can call the roll for the special meeting, please.
Alarcon, Cardenas, Gruhl, Hahn, Weezer, Labange, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Smith, Weiss, Wesson, Zine, Garcetti. 11 members present and a quorum, Mr. President.
Okay, item 30, anybody wishing to call that special? If not, go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That's approved. Next items.
Next are items 31 through 35, and those are items which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration. And, Mr. President, there are cards on 31, 32, and 33.
Okay, with 34 and 35, we'll open and close the public hearing. Anybody wishing to call 34 or 35 special? Seeing none, let's go ahead and open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Those are approved, and if we can take items 31, 32, and 33, continue those into the regular meeting, adjourn the special meeting, and we will return to Mr. Rosendahl. Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, colleagues, for being here and continuing to be here as we go through just a couple of major more moments to go. Suzanne Napati is the Director of Volunteer Resources for the LA Gay and Lesbian Center. This is an amazing center that connects us with all kinds of issues and ourselves especially. She oversees a program that has more than 5,000 registered volunteers, 700 of whom regularly support more than 30 programs throughout the center each month. As anyone who's ever run a political campaign knows, managing volunteers is as challenging as it is as rewarding. Suzanne deals with hundreds and thousands of volunteers and is known for doing so with skill, organizational ability, and good humor. A native of Guam, Suzanne currently serves on the board of directors of the Asian Pacific Islanders for Human Rights and was the center staff member of the Lesbian Active and Community Empowerment Honoree in 1999. In her free time, Suzanne performs under the stage name Suzanne Jun, okay? And performs at gay pride and orientation-neutral events. Suzanne is a talented singer and songwriter who is working on soundtracks for independent films and performs as part of the music duo In Disguise. It is a great honor to introduce Suzanne Napati.
my partner, Raquel Speraza, and we've been together for 4 years, and we're still talking about the whole marriage thing as well. It's a little bit unsettling. I was looking at Wilson Cruz, and I'm thinking, in my next life, I really want to come back as a gay man because he's so fashionable. They've got great interior designing skills and talents, and they're just trendsetters. So that's my wish. So I'm sending it up to the man upstairs, or women, for those of you that believe otherwise. I wish that I was as eloquent a speaker as all the folks that spoke before me, but as the people that know me well are aware, public speaking is not one of my favorite things. So forgive me as I stumble with everything that follows here. I have been at the center for 13 years, and when I first heard about this award, I was really shocked, just like Wilson said that he was shocked, because I'm thinking, God, there are so many people in the community that have done amazing things, and I really haven't felt like I've done what or accomplished as much as other people have. So I'm very, very humbled by this recognition. I owe a lot to the staff members that I have, one of whom has been with me for 11 years. I've been with her longer than any partner that I've had, so I don't know what that means. Her name is Camille Arroyo, and I just wanted to thank her. And I've been lucky enough to have another really amazing staff person who joined us about a year ago, Arlene Rodriguez, and I hope she's up here too. I'm very, very fortunate. These two women helped to make me look good, so I think the award actually should go to them. But most importantly, I would like to acknowledge the support that I've gotten from my boss, Kathy Ketchum, and senior, folks on senior team, Daryl and Lori, who have believed in my ability even when I wasn't sure that I could do what they thought that I could. I also wanted to acknowledge a former partner who's still also a good friend, Carla. If it's because of her that I was able to stay in Los Angeles. I initially came out just for a 2-year assignment, and I ended up staying and ended up at the LA Gay and Lesbian Center, which is honestly has been the probably the most rewarding job I've ever had in my life, and I'm sure that it will continue to be that way for me. I think that it's the best job in the world because, and I tell people this a lot, it's there, where else can you, or what other kind of job can you have where people are coming to you, offering up the most valuable asset that they have, which is their time, and expecting nothing in return, just because they want to make a difference. And very, very lucky to be in a position to help to facilitate that. And so, on that note, the folks that truly deserve recognition of this award are the volunteers that we have, not just at the LA Gay and Lesbian Center, but throughout this great city, throughout this great state, throughout this great nation, who take the time to give of themselves so that they can make a difference. And so on behalf of all of them, I thank you for this award. Thank you.
We have our Rosa Parks too. We have people who have been trailblazers and went against the grain, who said, enough is enough, I'm not going to take it anymore, I'm going to consecrate my love, and I'm going to stand up and be counted. So let's ask Diane Olsen and Robin Tyler to come on up.
I do. These are two words that are making history tonight right here in California.
After a long legal battle and a ruling by the state Supreme Court, a same-sex couple became the first to marry in L.A. County. KCAL 9's Dave Meekum live now in Beverly Hills, where that wedding took place. Dave?
Good evening, Sylvia. It played out much like you would expect. There were a handful of protesters, a whole lot of people supporting them, friends and family, and yes, history being made here at the courthouse in Beverly Hills. So it is a first for California, and what's different here from San Francisco 4 years ago, there is no law, at least for now, that can stop it. So marriage license in hand, they went, and creating history in the process.
None of us thought this would happen in our lifetime, especially that a Republican Supreme Court justice would be the one to be the deciding vote. And my dad was a judge, and our grandpa was governor back in 1938, and he was progressive, and he would be really proud.
Yes, the granddaughter of the late Governor Colbert Olson. He held office in the late 30s, early 40s, while the couple here this evening in their hometown were dressed in linen suits made special for the day.
By this ring, you are consecrated. You are consecrated to me. To me. I now pronounce you spouses for life. In the
I live around the corner, and I was just on my bicycle, and I thought it was like the president was in town.
It was Valentine's Day 2004. They applied for the marriage license in Beverly Hills and were rejected, and that wasn't the only time. But oh, how times have changed.
What a happy moment. How exciting.
She started 4 years ago. She decided one simple thing. She wanted to marry her partner. Today she's marrying them. And this is something that nobody's going to take that away from her.
And so there a look at L.A. County's very first same-sex couple to marry as for a honeymoon. They both work in the travel industry. They say they won't be doing that. In Beverly Hills, Dave Meekum, KCAL 9 News.
All right, Dave, thanks.
And that's just a little bit of the press. And obviously this was seen all over the world, and I just want to quote from the California decision. The California Constitution properly must be interpreted to guarantee this basic civil rights to all Californians, whether gay or heterosexual, and to same-sex couples as well as to opposite-sex couples. Chief Justice Ronald M. George wrote in the majority of 4-3. Quote, our state now recognizes that an individual's capacity to establish a loving and long-term committed relationship with another person and the responsibility to care for and raise children does not depend upon the individual's sexual orientation. The Chief Justice continued, an individual's sexual orientation, like a person's race or gender, does not constitute a legitimate basis upon which to deny or withhold legal rights. End of quote. This is as huge as it gets for us. And many of us who know this initiative on the ballot is wanting to say marriage is between a man and a woman. Let's get this position clearly straight. We should have a civil union for heterosexuals and homosexuals that gives everybody their basic rights of unity together. And then let the individual churches, individual ministers, individual people make the decision if they're going to do a spiritual connection to it. And it is not something that should be denied by anyone. So when we go forward with this legislation, we know the people in California will be with us. And just a little background. The same-sex couple to marry in Los Angeles County are right here. They're right next to me. Diane Olson and Robin Tyler. They have had a very long and tough road to get to the altar. But they and members of the LGBT community around the state think it was well worth the effort and the wait. Diane and Robin have been together for 15 years. For 8 years, they tried to get married, even every Valentine's Day to Beverly Hills Courthouse to apply for a marriage license. When they were denied in 2004, they said, quote, enough is enough. Against the advice of the LGBT leaders and all sorts of lawyers, they decided to sue. With the help of their friend Gloria Allred, and who's also my friend, I might say, and have been with me for many years on stuff, they were part of the original lawsuit challenging the ban on same-sex marriage as unconstitutional. As well known, they won, made history, and secured an important and central civil rights for millions of their fellow Californians. In recognition of their heroism, Los Angeles County allowed them to be the first to marry in the county at 5:01 p.m., June 16th, and I was proud to be there holding the chuppah. Harvey Milk may have been the Martin Luther King of the gay civil rights movement, but Robin Tyler and Susan Olson are our Rosa Parks. Let's thank them and congratulate them.
I'm still laughing at Bill in a yarmulke. We did it. We did it not popular. We did it our way, but we did it. And we had to. And we had to do it the way we did it. I got to marry the woman I love. That's what I wanted. Thank you. It's nice to get this honor. It's nice to be recognized. But Karen, you're right. We've got our work ahead cut out for us. So we're not going to go away soon.
Talk about your grandfather for a second.
My grandfather. See, this is not an unfamiliar room to me. My father was a judge. My grandfather was governor. My grandfather ran on the platform of separation of church and state. This is not in 1938. This is not something I wear on my sleeve. This is not something I usually tell people about until this issue came up. And when this issue came up, I looked at Robin and I said, now. This is my issue. It is an issue of separation of church and state. When I look around in this room, I realize how far we have come. It is amazing to me. Absolutely amazing to me. Sheila, I love you. I'm going to miss you. You know, I keep saying, don't go. Don't go.
She needs to run for governor.
Well. Did you say something, Robin? What was that? I didn't quite hear you. Anyway, thank you very much, Bill. You've become our new best friend.
Yes.
You are an absolute dear.
Thank you.
Yes. All right, thank you.
I want to tell all of you, it's been a long morning, and I know some of you, have to do your personal business, but you look better. We've seen you on television all these years, but you really look better in person, You look great, This has been a long struggle. The attorneys keep saying to us, hug and love as a couple. They really want to see you loving each other. They don't want to hear politics. But I've been in the movement since the early 1970s. We started in 1979 at the first march in Washington, which I called. We stood in front of the IRS department and said, tax us, marry us, unfair taxation to gay couples. In 1987 at that march, we had a huge marriage ceremony. 10,000 people came. In 1993, 20,000 people came. It was a huge issue. And so we have been fighting. This is not new for us. We've been fighting for this issue for over 35 years. And although Diane and I got to be first in LA County, I want you to know that we stand on the shoulders of tens of thousands of activists that fought with us. And we also, fighting by our side, was Lambda Legal and NCLR and the city of San Francisco, the city attorney's office, Dennis Herrera, and that fabulous, fabulous attorney, Teresa Stewart, that to me at the Supreme Court was like, Judy Garland's Carnegie Hall performance. You couldn't stand her, right? Anyway, you couldn't stand up there and defeat her in anything. So we stand on the shoulders of Gloria and all the law firms that took part in this and all the couples that worked with us. And I need to tell you that yesterday the preachers in San Diego, I guess, called for Christians to fast for 40 days. I am going to ask you to fast for 80 days, only to do it every second day so you don't go too hungry, all right? But I just thought it was an idea I'd throw out there. Thanks, Steve. P-Flag gave me the joke. It will be nice someday when we can vote in a presidential election where both candidates believe in civil rights for gay people. Not partial civil rights, not marriage segregation, but when candidates will come out and say, you have a right to love and you have a right to federal benefits. What was so important about the California decision, the most important was not the marriage, although we appreciate it. The most important thing was that for the first time in history, they recognized us as a suspect class, lesbians and gays, which means that we are a minority entitled to all legal protections under the law, and that has never happened before. Thank you for comparing us to Rosa Parks. I think it's far out, but this is Hollywood, so we'll take it. Thank you, Sheila, and all the people in Sacramento that fought so hard for us and pushed all those rights through for us. We are a movement. We will not stop moving until we get every last one of our rights, and everybody in every state can stand up and say, as gays and lesbians, LGBT people, we are finally free. Thank you.
We're all going to go in the back and do it.
Mr. Parks.
Thank you, Mr. President. Bill, let me just say thank you for this morning and inviting me to the rotunda for the reception. And we don't want to forget our USC folks that we honored there. But I just want to say it's been a collage of really a strong history of this city of L.A. when we see Senator Sheila here. And I want you to know, unlike Alicant, I was born when you were on TV. It was a very big TV, but a very small screen. But we did enjoy, and the things that you've done in Sacramento have been amazing. And also Karen, where's Karen? Karen, one thing I found out, she was not invited to be the person that interviewed me because she was representing the gay lesbian community. She's always been a fair reporter, and that's something that we've always held high in the sense of not only having interviews, but ensuring if you allow people to interview you a second and third time, that she's fair. You may not agree, but she had a point of view, and you could live with that, as opposed to, as many of us have gone through, that some of these interviews, you don't recognize them after the interview. We'd always been appreciative to you for that. And also, I think one of the highlights of becoming chief of police was having Laura Jean as our guest speaker at the reception that morning. And so it's something that we attempted to open up the department, let people know that everyone had a place. And we were always warmly received at the parade. Again, for years we battled about the parade, and later we found out we could coexist with the parade and everybody could have a great time at the parade. It was a great opportunity to see young officers in uniform walk in the parade and the pride that they showed. And so for the Captain Nieto, having been there before, having seen the incremental bias that you see within a department, you've broken down a great number of stereotypes. I can recall, like yesterday, in '75, working in recruitment, where we're attempting to bring on minorities and females in the department, and one of our Latina recruiters, we said, why are we having such difficulty bringing Latinas on the department? And her spontaneous remark was, they all want to be hairdressers. And we all looked at her and said, you're the wrong person for this job, because that's not quite the answer we were looking for. But that's something that shows, again, how times have changed, and that a Latina can be not only on the LAPD, but be a captain of police and in the division of Hollenbeck, which is something in which many people are still gauged by the prior captains that were there. Rudy De Leon is still the image of what Hollenbeck is all about. And so I just want to say thank you, Bill, for bringing forth all of these young people to be here with us, and really want to thank all of you for your progress and the things that have been important for this city. And so just wanted to give a shout out to all of you. Thank you.
Ms. Hahn.
Thank you. I was trying to find out when I could also stand up during this fabulous almost 2 hours when I could say something. And I figured I'm going to stand up now and say it, or forever hold my peace. Bill, first of all, thank you for doing this morning. It's been absolutely inspiring. Absolutely inspiring. And you're absolutely inspiring, Bill. And you know how I feel about you. We may have our little tiffs every now and then, but you're a wonderful human being, and you're such a decent soul. And I have been inspired by you on a number of occasions. I've enjoyed listening to everybody's speeches this morning. I have never heard some of us speak so eloquently and so passionately about such a deeply human issue, and that's been very inspiring for me. So much has been said this morning. Karen, sorry about the Nate Holden flirting thing. I love it. That's the first time you've ever talked about it publicly. I'm going to join. I think he flirted with me, and I've never talked about it publicly either. And he was like my family member, so, I never talked about it. And Wilson, you were very inspiring. And to think that you said you came out 14 years ago. I mean, look that old. I think it's awesome that you came out in preschool. That's amazing. You're amazing. But you are really such an inspiration to so many people because of your career, and it's great that you were here today. In fact, I was thinking today, what's happening today, there's so many people watching on Channel 35, and you know that there are people out there right now, probably some young people, probably maybe some middle-aged people, who have maybe today have gotten the courage, what it takes to be who they are, to love themselves, and to be willing, because of your courage, to let those that around them, that they're here, and that they deserve to be respected and have dignity. So what we're doing today is so, so important. Diane and Robin, you really have so much to be congratulated for. To think that every Valentine's Day you went and tried to get married is an amazing persistence, and it must have hurt many of you for years to think of those out here who were allowed to be married, and many of them threw away their marriages, and many of them got married 2 or 3 or 4 times, and that must have been particularly hurtful and insulting to those of you who really wanted to be married, and congratulations. I was honored to go to Kevin Bakes and Paul Waters' wedding last Wednesday. I was very honored to be there. Mike Fuhrer officiated, and he did such a good job. And as I said there that day, love is sacred. And it was inspiring for me to be in the presence of people who truly loved each other. And Sheila, you are such an inspiration. You always have been for me. I'm old enough to remember Dobie Gillis. I grew up in that generation, and you have gone on to be one of my heroes, particularly as a woman in politics. There are still too few of us, and we need to do a better job of getting more. But you are certainly an inspiration to so many women in the state of California. So thank you all for your bravery, your courage. You've all really written the book on courage. Thank you.
Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you very much, Council President. I just want to thank all of you for allowing us to share with you on this beautiful occasion and celebrating much of what you've done, not so much for yourselves, but what you've all done for everyone. You've shown your non-bias. You've shown your willingness and ability to work on issues that affect everybody in a positive way, such as universal health care someday, someday. But at the same time, I want to also say that it actually empowers every single one of us who've ever felt like I don't belong. Because I remember as a little boy, the son of immigrants whose parents could barely speak English, I remember having that feeling of not wanting to be brown. Not because I should have felt that way, it's just the barrage and the subliminal and the some people who are blatant enough to insult me and my family and my parents. It empowers us to realize, you know what? We need to stick together for what's right. It's just simply right. And it doesn't matter if somebody thinks they have that power and authority to speak ill of other people and to be biased just because they happen to have a pulpit, or they happen to be a member of a legislature, or they happen to have some human title that they think empowers them to say something that is just not true, or it's wrong, or it's hurtful, or hateful. It's just not right. And today, to me, it's an empowering day for every person who has ever been imposed by that kind of ill, by that kind of talk, by that kind of action. And when I say action, I think today is a great day for us to memorialize those individuals who stood up for themselves and who literally were beaten to death because of it. That's how serious this is. That's how important it is that we shed light on the fact that speaking ill of others is wrong. Being biased out of ignorance is wrong. To lift a hand against another person for whatever reason is wrong. And that stuff still goes on today. But today is a beautiful day in which we speak well of each other, and appropriately and respectfully so. This is the kind of moment that we should share with each other one that expresses that is good, not trying to make up reasons why we should hate each other. Thank you for sharing with us.
Ms. Gruhl.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. I was at a funeral, so I just walked in and missed some of the presentations, but wanted to speak to the many people who are honored today, and the fact that this city is richer for the individuals, not only the individuals that are honored, but the diversity of Los Angeles, and that we have a long way to go to educate people who are misinformed and don't understand I think the presence and the diversity of the lesbian and gay and transgender individuals in our city. And it was so exciting to be part of the parade a few weeks ago, albeit very hot and long. But it was a great day, and to be able to celebrate this week the marriages of many people, and particularly Mercedes and Mirta here in the city of Los Angeles, friends of mine for many, many years. So, Bill, thank you for your leadership in doing this today, and glad that I was able to get back to add my comments, and just to congratulate all of you for what you've done for the city, and for Tony, your remarks about the importance of acceptance and understanding of those that may be different, but those are people who, each of us, religion, sexual orientation, ethnicity, that's what makes this city great, that's what makes this country great, and to stand up for everyone's rights is something we must do every single day. So thank you very much, Mr. Rosendahl, for your leadership on this issue, and great to see some old friends today in City Council. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Bill. I want to echo the comments by my colleagues. You are a gentleman. I've worked with you in the cable industry, worked with you here since you've been a member of the council. You're very proud of what you've accomplished. You've accomplished a lot, and you represent a great community here in the city of Los Angeles. And I'm proud to have you on the back of my Harley as we ride down Santa Monica Boulevard while the people are cheering us, wondering why Eric Garcetti is not on the back of my motorcycle for the parade. But in all seriousness, congratulations to everyone who's here. That it is a long time to come about civil rights here in the city of Los Angeles. We're making it slowly at a snail's pace, but we are making those slow approaches. So we were with you. Again, congratulations. I know it's been a long discussion, but the bottom line is you're doing good for humanity, good for people. God bless you and everyone here. Thank you very much, Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Zine. And I want to thank Mr. Rosendahl for an extraordinary presentation of an extraordinary breadth of political and social and cultural leaders, people in healthcare, people who've touched every facet of life here in Los Angeles. I'm extremely proud to represent the 13th District, which is kind of the GLBT heartland of the city, to have the Gay and Lesbian Center in my district, Morris Kite Square, which we mentioned before, the Dyke March and Dyke Day, which we had for the first time this year at Barnsdall. And to really be president of this council, because whether it was Ed Reyes standing up on the wall, Las Memorias, or whether it's been the resolutions that we've passed here to expand equal benefits ordinance that my predecessor did for businesses doing business with the city of Los Angeles, we passed and wrote something that extended that to all of our proprietary departments. We stood up for immigration rights for same-sex couples. We've stood up for marriage rights year after year after year until this was the year it came true. You've been deputized. Many of us have already been marrying folks. This is an incredible, incredible moment, and I'll end with this. When you read history in a book, it's one of the cruel things that it seems so easy. Women just got the vote on page 247 in your reader, and segregation ended on page 347. And we know in the midst of a struggle, and certainly those of you who have been there from the very beginning know how painful and long history is. But the day that you actually do turn that page and create a new chapter in Americans' struggle for full equality, it is a beautiful, beautiful thing, and thank you for struggling each hour of every day of every year to get us there. Thank you.
Well, bless you, Mr. President. And I want to thank all my colleagues for your comments and your heartfelt thoughts and your support. I want to thank Eric Sanjero, who put this up together a year ago and propelled me to the front of the room, and there I was leading this event. But thank you, Eric, for your leadership and making it happen last year. I want to thank Jerry Miller, our CLA, openly gay man with his partner I've met many times, who helps us in our overall leadership in your position as our CLA. Thank you, Jerry. I want to thank my chief of staff, Mike Bonin, who actually fine-tuned it all, who's an openly gay man that is proud of who he is, and I'm proud to have him as my chief of staff. I also want to thank Chad Molar, who does my airport stuff, another openly gay man over there. And I want to thank Guy and McCormick, who has been running around here putting it together, and wish him and Gabrielle a long life together, who got married the other day. And Daniel, where is Daniel? Daniel Trujillo, who runs around the Horseshoe for Wendy Grill. There are a lot of our people, folks, in this room, part of the staff, part of the organization. We are everywhere. And especially now I want to thank all my gay brothers and sisters for coming here today. Thank you so much, and happy Gay Pride.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rosendahl. For folks who are waiting for public comment on other things, we just have one more presentation, and we thank the folks who have been very patient all morning long. On that second presentation, I'd like to recognize Mr. Cardenas from our 6th Council District, who's going to be giving a presentation on behalf of himself and Councilwoman Jan Perry. Mr. Cardenas. If I can ask folks to just kind of move a little bit to the side so we can have the same courtesy for our next presentation. And Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you very
all,
much,
colleagues.
Council President. It's my pleasure and honor to present this proclamation to a wonderful organization that is headed currently by David Bond, who's the president. Let me tell you a little bit about who they are, and it's regarding the Department of Water and Power. And we're also joined by the head of the Department of Water and Power, David Nahai. Today I'm joined by members of the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power Employees Association, represented by their president, David Bond, and also, again, the general manager, David Nahai, came to join us today. This year marks their 75th anniversary, and we wanted to take this opportunity to celebrate this milestone. They are in existence to promote the general welfare of Los Angeles Department of Water and Power and their employees, and also the local community that they serve. Its mission is to provide benefits and services for all active and retired employees, their immediate family members, and the communities in which they work and live. In addition to providing support to their employees and families, the association has also provided financial support to 37 charitable organizations in the Los Angeles community. Some of those notable organizations include the Beacon Light Mission, the Downtown Women's Center, Free Arts for Abused Children, and the Jeffrey Foundation. These contributions would not have been possible without the generous donations from DWP employees themselves and retired employees through a program called the Donors Welfare Plan. The program is an employee giving program that has made a positive impact on the community and city of Los Angeles. Over several decades, they have donated millions of dollars and also countless hours of time of their talent to the community in community service. The association is structured through a volunteer board of directors composed of 15 active DWP employees who oversee the Employees Association, as well as an executive board who maintain the day-to-day operations. Please join me in recognizing and thanking the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power Association on their 75th anniversary of this outstanding organization and the wonderful, tremendous work. Through their efforts, they have truly served the people of Los Angeles. And I'd like to note by name the people who have joined us today, and we'll have two of them come up and speak. First, we have Beltran Ramiro, DWP retired employees representative to the board. Andrew Williams, Board Director. Tam Willie, Board Director. Paul Smith Wyson, Board Director. Edward Rogers, Board Director. Hassan Motalabi, Board Director. Sharon Moore, Board Director. David Moore, Board Director. Martha Lopez, Board Director. Denise Jefferson, Board Director. Gail Harris, Board Director. Merle Sue Green, Board Director. Clifford Damran, Board Director. LaConta Franklin, Board Director. Brian Grace, Director. Lloyd Harvey, Executive Officer. Anne Marie de la Riva, Secretary. And Chief Financial Officer Ron Honeywell. And Gregory Bush, Vice President. And I'll bring forward to say a few words. First is David Nahai, our General Manager of the Department of Water and Power, and then we'll bring up Mr. Bonk.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Councilmember Cardenas. Good morning, members of the City Council, Council President Garcetti. It's good to be here with you again, and I'm particularly proud to be here with the Board of Directors of the DWP Employees Association, an association that has now been in existence for 75 years. And I'm especially gratified to be associated with this organization, and especially with the Donors Fund, which raises annually between $500,000 to $800,000, money that is given to charities, that is given to underserved communities, and this is a secret, I think, in this city that really shouldn't be, because here is a monetary sacrifice that is made by DWP employees year in, year out for 75 years, and it really hasn't been recognized. And I want to thank you, Council Member, and thank you, members of the Los Angeles City Council, for recognizing this and for presenting the association with this proclamation today. And I'll ask Mr. David Bond to say a few words.
President Garcetti, members of the City Council, thank you very much for recognizing the efforts that have been put forth for many years, 75 now, from not just the active members, but the retired members of the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. All of us, as civil servants, are members of this organization, and through the Donors Welfare Plan, with the chairperson, Denise Jefferson, we have been contributing throughout to, as was stated, 37 different charities, along with assisting many of the members that currently are department employees. We are proud and privileged to work continuously with Mr. Nahai and the direction that we're now headed as far as staffing and being adequately able to sufficiently take care of both our systems for both water and power, and together working, benefiting all of us as members and continue to benefit the citizens of Los Angeles. I would like to recognize the members that are here with us today. Mr. Brian Grace, Merle Sue Green, Gregory Bush, Clifford Damron's hiding behind Gregory Bush, Lloyd Harvey, Hassan Motalabi, Ron Honeywell, Martha Lopez, Anne Marie de la Riva, Hall Smith Wason, Latonqua Franklin, Denise Jefferson, and Willie Tam. Not present are David Moore and Sharon Moore. But we greatly appreciate this, and we want to continue and will serving both the people of Los Angeles and benefiting all the members as civil servants of the city of Los Angeles. So thank you very much for appreciating it and for this wonderful plaque. This is a beautiful presentation that will be displayed in our association office. Thank you very much.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I think as Angelinos we should be very, very proud of these volunteers and the tremendous work that they've been doing as David Nahai said, too much of a secret in this city. And it's no longer a secret. Everybody can see and everybody knows that for 75 years you've been giving above and beyond the call of duty as you said, public servants, beyond the hours of pay, and making sure that the city of Los Angeles is cared for and that you're giving to the most needy parts of Los Angeles through your hearts and through your hard work. Once again, on behalf of our chairwoman, Jan Perry, who brought this forward, and myself and the rest of the council members, congratulations on your tremendous work, and may you figure out a way to keep it going for another 750 years. Okay, congratulations. Everybody say cheese.
Thank you very much, and congratulations, everybody. Again, thank you for your patience this morning as well. If we can return to our general public comment at this time. Our first speaker is Zuma Dog. I'd like to come forward in just a moment. We'll clear out the area around the podium. After Mr. Dog will be Mr. Arnold Sachs. And the clock is not working at the podium, Mr. Dog, and other speakers, so we're going to be trying to run a two-minute timer up here, but I'll let you know if it's not running when you're at a minute, 30 seconds, etc. Okay? Excuse me, Mr. Dowd, if you'll please sit down. And Mr. Dog is our first speaker.
Okay, ready? On your mark, get set, go! Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Zuma Dog. First of all, we need to put out a citizen's alert for all council members. Be aware, Fox 11 News, there's a violent cameraman on the loose on the streets and county of Los Angeles. Zuma Dog was walking on a public sidewalk 2 nights ago. Fox 11 News, the cameraman ran after me, grabbed me by the arm, pulled me and slammed me into a fence. You can see it on my website, zumatube.com. Hit the blog. Don't laugh, man! Council member Hunt is laughing,
If you could please,
y'all.
she's entitled to. If you could please lower your voice, not address the council members.
I had an
Thank you, Mr. Dog.
Okay, thank you. I had an exacerbated situation as a result, and let me tell you something. You can laugh all you want, but when you have a Fox cameraman run after, charge you, grab you by the arm, and slam you into a fence, well, that guy's going to be in jail, I guarantee it. And I ask for your support in talking to Fox 11. You got to be kidding me. But now on another issue, I'd like to thank the person who just stopped me in City Hall and handed me an envelope and goes, "Here, Zuma." Oh, it just happens to be the salaries of everybody in the city from top to bottom, y'all. And congratulations, David Nahai, $310,000. Yeah. But it says here the salary range is up to $344, so he ain't getting top dollar, y'all. Holla at your boy, and maybe I can renegotiate that for you. Also, an alert with the city unions. The city unions, Merriam and all the workers, they think they're getting 25% raise. It's based on city revenue projections, which we now know will not be met. The 25% raise, you will never see it, Zuma Dog says. The mayor knew this. That's why he said, "Oh, I didn't know we were going to have financial hard times." Not because he gave the raises, because he knew he'd never have to pay up. Also, DWP residents, not only is oil going to be through the roof, but water. They say 9% in 3 years. Zuma Dog has the calculations. It's going to be 30% to 50% raise in your water rates.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dog.
They'll be passing along the cost.
All right.
I'm saying up to 50% raise.
Thank you.
Please stay
Our next speaker is Arnold Sachs. Arnold Sachs will be our next speaker. After that is Alicia Adams.
Good afternoon, City Council. Arnold Sachs. Just a quick reflection on yesterday's wonderful MTA, Los Angeles County MTA board meeting. There was quite a few calls to increase the pot size from some of the board members. What we need is not only an increase the size of the pot for funding to increase, but we also need to have some leadership to limit the number of people who get to taste from the pot and the portions of the samples that these leaders take from the pot. 18 months ago, when the Aqua line was on the table, I mean the Expo line, I mean the Mid-City Expo line, which is an idea of some tastes, or the Subway to the Sea, or the Wilshire Corridor, or the Red Line, or the Purple Line, which is an idea of portions of the samples. We need some people to address the public needs, not necessarily the public needs, but the transit public needs, because all too often we get public representatives but they don't represent the transit riders. They represent the people who are taking taste from the big pot of money that the public approves. I'd like to congratulate Mr. Reyes, Councilman Reyes, who spoke eloquently as the president of the Pasadena Gold Line. But you're also, sir, on the board of the Gold Line Foothill Construction Authority. Don't you find that somewhat of a conflict of interest since they both serve the same purposes? Although there is no Pasadena Gold Line, there is a Pasadena Gold Line Construction Authority. And congratulations to the MTA board for actually amending the 2001 Long-Range Transit Plan to include language that would allow them to meet the requirements for eligibility for the federal funding for the high occupancy lane car tolls. It's too bad they never finished the work of the 2001 Long-Range Transportation Plan, but they actually got the funding in so that they become eligible for federal money.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sachs. Alicia Adams is our next speaker. And after that, we'll go out to San Fernando Valley for Rick Nightingale. Good morning. Thank you for your patience.
Good morning. I'm here on behalf of Robert Garcia, Executive Director and Counsel of the City Project. Dear President Garcetti and honorable council members, the City Project presents this status report regarding our efforts to obtain Quimby Park fee information pursuant to the Council's March 18, 2008 resolution. Specifically, the City Project seeks the Geographic Information System shape files for the hard copy Quimby map and the Excel spreadsheets published in the hard copy March 2008 Quimby Quarterly Report. The Department of Recreation and Parks to date has not provided that information. The Council directed the Bureau of Engineers to provide such information to the City Project in the March 18th motion. The Bureau of Engineers does not have the information. The Department of Recreation and Parks does. The City Project will map the information with our maps of green access and equity by City Council district and publish the maps for the Council and the public. The City Project will work with Green Info Network, which is a nonprofit GIS consultant. We will not release requested electronic information to third parties. The City Project is willing to sign an agreement to that effect. We would be grateful for any assistance the Council can provide. We are eager to follow up with Council staff to obtain the specified information. Thank you. Once again, I'm speaking on behalf of Robert Garcia of the City Project.
Thank you very much, and feel free to contact us. We'll see if we can assist you in getting that information. Be happy to. Rick Nightingale is our next speaker out in Van Nuys, and after that we'll come back for Matt Dowd here in Council Chambers.
Yeah, good morning. Rick Nightingale. I guess I wasn't surprised when Judge, Rough Tough and Councilman Weiss and Chief Burton kind of came around on about the weaponry, that they were very disappointed that the Supreme Court judge that we could still have our weapons, let's put it that way. It's really surprising the way this country is really going down the tubes regarding the liberals and everything. I just don't understand it, where we're supposed to be free to do basically what we want as long as we obey the basic laws, but the basic laws seem like be going down the tubes. It's just unbelievable. But I just wonder what they're going to do regarding the, that new injunction over there by the Sanford gang. That is the police department or even the city council going to back we'll say bend the rules on Order 40, that you will deport the gang members that are supposed to be here, or are you just going to let them out of jail to commit other crimes like it happened before? I don't want to get into names. It's just boggling how things are getting voted, and it's, oh man, I just can't believe when I watch the news regarding the courts and that they're going so far off to the left. Is just unbelievable, But it's just, and another thing, like the paparazzis over there in Malibu. When is the council going to turn around and pass a rule that people do have freedoms even if you get famous? At least they're going to get down and pass something. Like, I think it should be paparazzi. If you sell one picture to a magazine, you are considered a professional, and you have to be within 100 feet to be taking photos of people. I think that's what you guys ought to start looking at for these other people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nightingale. Mr. Dowd is our next speaker here. After that is Michael Carrion.
Yeah, thank you, Matt Dowd. I was getting set to apologize to Jack Weiss for my comments on Wednesday, but guess what? He left already, folks. Jack Weiss was here, of course. He's getting a photo opportunity with the mayor, but Jack Weiss already left the building. Can the city council keep control on Jack Weiss so that he can be here so I can give him the apology? I'm not anti-Semitic, by the way. I love God. I think that, ask a rabbi, that probably qualifies me as not anti-Semitic. But Jack Weiss, I don't like, because he's not here. Where is he? Anyway, Venice Beach. I'm somewhat of a community, I'm a recognized advocate. People come up to me, say they see me on Channel 35. Thank you to all those people. They're watching, they're listening. They say how good it is, the work I'm doing. I'm assembling the next bunch of plaintiffs to sue the city under the First Amendment. See, I'm with Rick Nightingale on some things. I can't figure out America yet because, you know, you can scrape a baby ex utero in the form of an abortion and commit murder. That's someone's right. You can have anal intercourse within a gay marriage and that's celebrated, but you can't be African American and sell African shea butter with a permit on Venice Beach. And you guys are still litigating against Mike Hunt. It's still in federal court. Why? I thought we solved all this. We had this big thing and a whole charade over the whole thing, but no, let's still keep the African American in federal court. He's selling African shea butter. So I don't understand how everyone's got all these rights, but our First Amendment, the First Amendment, violated horrifically.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Michael Carrion. Mr. Weiss is excused today, but he did come in earlier to vote as well. Mr. Carrion is our next speaker. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon now. My name is Michael Carrion, and I had a question for you guys. Maybe I don't know who can answer this. How can you get a chief of fire department to have people cover up for tattoos when they're out to save lives? They have to undress, to redress, to go fight fires. That also is a freedom of speech. If you're going to have the fire department cover up, then have the police department cover up. Have maintenance cover up. If you're offended by a fireman with tattoos, you're offended by street maintenance with tattoos. You're offended when LAPD have tattoos. When they all come with the same tattoos, and yet you pick on one of your own employees. If you're going to pass an ordinance, pass it across the board, evenly. The fire department should not be held out. When if my house is ever on fire, I don't want them to have to change clothes because you guys were appalled because of their tattoos. Police departments have short sleeves. They run around with tattoos. Have them all cover up, or none. Simple. I just want equality across the board. I've asked for it several times, and I've gotten it some of the times. Mr. Weezar, this is my grandson, Andrew. He was on Channel 7 the other day for one of our community gardens in the community. Today's my day off. I thought I'd bring him down to say hi. Say hi to everybody.
Hi.
Okay. Say hi over there.
Hi.
Okay. Thank you very much. Say goodbye now.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Just as a point of information, the policy in the fire department is not an ordinance. It's just an internal personnel policy. That will close our general public comment. If we can take up the first item number 1, please.
Item number 1 has a card on this.
Okay. A very patient Avi Bonin, if you'd like to come forward. Is Avi still here? No Avi Bonin? Okay. Well, that public hearing will still stay open, as we mentioned earlier, until July, what was the date, Madam Clerk?
July 18th.
July 18th. So we'll continue that without objection and go ahead with that. If we can take up item 14, we've had a request out of order, and we have cards as well on 14. I'd like to have Arnold Sachs come forward first on item 14. Our next speaker after that will be Matt Dowd.
Good afternoon, Arnold Sachs. Again, another bid. But my concerns on this item deal with Section 5 and Section 6. Section 5 states, find the services provided by the Owners Association are in the nature of professional, expert, technical, or other special services, blah, blah, blah. Section 6 says, approve the Hollywood Properties Owners Alliance to serve as the Owners Association to administer the Hollywood Entertainment District property and bid. Why the third party? You have the services of the Owners Association are the nature of professional, expert, technical, or other special services. What about the services of the Hollywood Property Owners Alliance? How do you find those services? That's a third party. Why is that necessary? You have the bid, you have people who are running it, the Owners Association, are the people who are paying the bid members of the Owners Association? Thank you for your time and your attention, by the way. Or are they also members of the Hollywood Property Owners Alliance? Seems to me they're two different organizations. Maybe one's a nonprofit, and we know the situation with nonprofits. It's your district, Mr. President. Do you think that's right that you need to have two separate organizations running one bid? How much money is involved here? We worry so much about funding, and here it is, right in front of your eyes, another made-up organization stepping in as the third party to run a city business. New year, new fiscal year, same baloney. Thank you for your time, your answers, and especially this time, your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. If you'd like those answers, again, the clerk is available to explain in very close detail. And we actually have the head of the bid here as well to prove to you that there's no made-up organization for that, and I'm sure she'll be able to let you know. So we appreciate your attention and listening to that as well. Mr. Dowd.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, tell Bill Rosendahl not to leave his presentations lying around in the cheap seats, or I'll take it home. I'd love a Bill Rosendahl presentation.
If you'll just address, thank you, but if you'll address the bid before us, thank you.
Of course, Mr. President. Thank you. The Business Improvement District. Now, look, the Downtown News is reporting on the downtown one. The people don't like it here. They don't like these things anywhere. It's just another example of the city of Los Angeles trying to extract money for improvements that may or may not be required. And here's the problem, of course. Zuma Dog talks about it on the Daily Blog all the time. They say they're going to do this with the money, and they say they're going to do that with the money, but in the end it actually goes to someone and their front-end loaded management. They take all the money for all their management and consulting, and then when it comes time to get onto the street, there's no money left, so they've got to come back to you to get some more money. Now, is this my clock up here, Mr. President? Only going to take a minute on this, Mr. City Attorney. People don't want him. Check the Downtown News.
Our next speaker is Carrie Morrison. Good afternoon. Nice to see you.
Mr. President, members of the City Council, I'm Carrie Morrison. I am the Executive Director of the Hollywood Property Owners Alliance, which manages the Hollywood Entertainment District, BID. We've worked for a year to present a plan to our property owners to renew the district for another 10 years and to expand the boundaries, and we look forward to your support of this ordinance so we can embark upon the Prop 218 election. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Morrison, and thank you for the good work of the Hollywood bid, and congratulations on the democratically continued election in which property owners asserted their desire to have this. Please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
That is approved. We can go next to item 13. We'll come back to 11 in just a second. 13.
Item number 13 is a commission reappointment of Mr. Jonathan Williams to the Board of Recreation and Park Commissioners, and there is a card on this.
Okay, Mr. Zumadog is our first speaker. After that is Matt Dowd.
Yes, I certainly wish Jack Weiss was here. I've been here like 5 meetings in a row. He hasn't been here with the quorum for one of them. Geez. Anyway, this is regarding Parks and Rec.
Park and Rec Commissioner. Here's what I would like you, City Council, to make sure that the Commissioner is aware of. First of all, that Zuma Dog is here because of screw-ups at Venice Beach. That's Parks and Rec, so you could thank him for that, Pandora's Box. Kevin De Leon, he's an assembly member who's in charge of state bond money regarding Parks and Recreations. I attended one of his meetings. I did not like what I saw at all. Check out sunset clauses. What it is there's money that's supposed to be given to the Parks and Rec Department for Parks and Rec, for the community. But what happens, there's a sunset clause, and it allows them to wait it out about 15 years, and then it can be turned into anything they want. So it turns out to be high density condos or something else besides Parks and Rec, and you can check that out. Also, Parks and Rec Department is funded by nonprofits, and I'm very concerned. I think the number one problem that this city suffers from that cheats the neighborhoods, that should be most preventable, is the squandering, the fraud, waste, abuse, corruption, racketeering, and RICO violations that go on through the nonprofit organizations, specifically in these types of departments, Parks and Recs. You know, a lot of money is given to the city that they vote on, and the communities that need it most end up being cheated, and Parks and Rec money. And so we're talking about front-end loaded management contracts, and I certainly hope that the newspapers or the district attorney or somebody besides Zuma Dog can start talking about this, because the city's about to turn into all hell breaking loose because they can't provide services that they're going to need to provide security, safety, police, fire, trash removal, and it's because they waste all the money in the way I've been talking about for 2 years, and it goes to this agenda item as well for this commissioner. And so, do something, City Council.
Thank you very much. Matt Dowd.
Well, something went wrong. The Zuma Dog Matt Dowd show came back to town. The merry-go-round keeps turning. Princess Zine back here on the record. Wendy Gruhl, thanks for acknowledging me that day.
Can you speak to the item, please?
Well, I am. I'm here because of Mr. Jonathan Williams. Now, where is he? Why can't I talk to him? Where is this commissioner? Where the public wants to address him? He's the root cause of all the problems, because these guys don't stand up to LAPD. They don't stand up to the council deputies and the chief of staff here, Mike Bonin. They're trying to just manipulate these guys to do anything they want. Now, I want this guy to start talking to the community. Jonathan Williams has ignored the community. He's ignored our request. There's a lot of people who have First Amendment protection, and they just run roughshod over everyone. There's another lawsuit coming. So, Parks and Rec, I hope you're enjoying not having any money, because it's going to be even less when I'm done with the next one.
Thank you very much. This item is now before us. Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
11 ayes.
Thank you. Our next item, I believe, is item number 11, and I'd like to acknowledge Council President Eric Garcetti.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Colleagues, I know Mr. Huizar called this special. I'll just say a couple things and then cue it up as well for Mr. Huizar to give some comments. And I would invite staff to come forward. We had this is about instant runoff voting. I think everybody around this horseshoe has probably been introduced to the idea, knows what it is, has probably been lobbied on it by a growing coalition of people who are calling for a smarter way to do our elections. It's something that I have certainly been supportive of, although the reason we're bringing it up here now without a recommendation is there are some who have advocated putting this on the November ballot, which would mean we'd have to act probably today to do that. It was my honest assessment looking at this that I'm not necessarily as convinced that November is the best time politically to pass it, and also that we have, as you'll hear about, an RFP going out for our voting equipment, and to make that decision before we even know some of the factors about our voting equipment, because this would be for, I believe, going into effect probably around 2011, gives us time to still do our due diligence and to continue to grow the possibility of this, as well as in this report, vote by mail being more aggressive. We've seen lots of good things come of instant runoff voting in San Francisco, which is the first kind of big city to have this implemented and up and running. We've also seen states like Oregon take vote by mail so that people actually physically get their ballots at home without having to ask for it, and a number of other things, because I think we're all frustrated with both low voter turnout and also some elections like certainly the special election we saw for the runoff in the community college district have turnout in some places that was single digits. And as Mr. Huizar has eloquently talked about, going in and voting, and he and his wife were 2 of the 4 people in his precinct who had voted, that many people bypassed those elections. I also do believe that elections are made interesting and turnout is usually boosted up by what is on the ballot. But there's certainly something else that's been happening. And we know in our city elections that the tenor could be improved probably by people not going after one another, because instant runoff voting, you want to get the votes in the second and third choices of your would-be opponents. But you also need the ability to look at a whole range of factors. So I wanted to hear what the council's take was on this, both on instant runoff voting in general, vote by mail, but also the timing, would we put something on the ballot to change that, and to hear from those experts who run our elections about what we would need to do that. So I don't know if we'll turn over to Mr. Huizar, or maybe we could just hear a little bit from our city clerk about some of the things that you've outlaid in terms of the costs that would be associated, but the cost savings as well with either considering instant runoff voting and or vote by mail.
Sure. Karen Kalfyan, the interim city clerk. In February of this year, our office released a report outlining a number of options for conducting municipal elections. After consideration of that report, the council requested the CAO to report on the cost of instant runoff voting and a vote-by-mail centered election, and those were discussed in that report. And today, the CAO report is also before you. Much of that discussion, much of the recent discussion has centered around instant runoff voting in particular, and a lot of that focus has been on the cost of such a system and the cost savings of not having a runoff election. I do want to point out that although there are cost savings that may be realized down the road with regard to IRV, there are other policy considerations that the council should be aware of, and these apply to both IRV and vote-by-mail centered elections, and frankly to any new voting system. These have to do with potential impacts on voters with limited English proficiency, on our ability to fully partner with the county and other neighboring cities for elections, on our poll workers, and all of these would need to be addressed before implementing any new system. With regard to IRV, the council should also consider whether there's, as a policy issue, whether there's value in having that period between a primary and a runoff, where issues may be more defined and where there's an opportunity to get to know the remaining candidates. Now, in the next month or so, our office will be issuing an RFP for a new voting system, and once those proposals come in, we'll have a better idea of what systems are available, the cost of those systems, and the status of their certification. We're writing the RFP in a manner that would allow for both instant runoff voting and for a vote-by-mail centered election, and we're also keeping other options open as well. So, and we're also working with the county to keep the option of partnering with them open, because there are cost savings that can be realized if we do partner with the county. Now, I haven't gotten any of the details on these, but I'm certainly here to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. I was wondering, Madam President, if you will just read into the record. I know we've had a number of hearings on it, but read into the record who is here on for or against. I assume almost everybody that's here is for. A couple other issues to consider, colleagues. We are in charge of elections for LAUSD and for the Los Angeles Community College District, as we've mentioned before. And so the ramifications of this, I think, are very important, too, to look at. The school district hasn't taken a formal position on this. The community college district hasn't taken a formal one, but a majority of community college trustees, I know Mona Field, I think, is right there, is here and spoke very eloquently as well in putting that Exhibit A of the last runoff election, which cost them a lot of money for something that could have easily been taken care of with ranked voting or an instant runoff voting system. It's been my instincts from what the city clerk reported that, and these are not mutually exclusive, that a vote-by-mail system could help us get some additional voter turnout, could help us give the options of people knowing that there's an election going on that would be mailed directly to them. But the instant runoff voting would do that as well in a different arena. The downside and the piece that we have to overcome, I think, to convince ourselves and convince the people of Los Angeles to vote for this is an education program. San Francisco did that for about, we estimate what would cost us anywhere from about $3.8 million to, I've heard some estimates a little bit higher than that, maybe $5 or $6 million. But the savings, in years following that would obviously be greater than that. But I'd really just like to open up. I know that a couple council members have come and testified. Mr. Rosendahl, Mr. Zion was there as well in committee, but get a sense of where the body is at today and what we can do. And I just want to be very clear, too, if we don't take action today for November, it doesn't mean that we aren't working very hard with the city clerk's office and the CAO to really price out some of these things and to know what voter technology is out there with the systems that we're asking to come in through the RFP. That is, I think, critical no matter what we do. And the last point is we really have to do this hand in hand with the county because we have special elections that are done on county machines. And if we're going to have an instant runoff voting system, in order for us not to have a huge cost of always bringing our machines in a parallel way, our ideal way to do this would be hand in hand with the county, also with backing from LAUSD and LACCD as we have here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garcetti. I want to read the names of the people who are here. Vanessa Rodriguez for the proposal, Alan Clayton against the proposal, Mona Field for the proposal, Gautam Dutta for proposal, Maureen Cruz for the proposal, Michael Russo for the proposal, Bob Smith for the proposal, Genevieve Marcus, Stephen Hill, and Stephen Ochoa also for the proposal. Mr. Cardenas.
I'm a little confused. Can you reiterate for us what the item is before us, the actual action, should we take a vote on this item?
The item that's on the agenda is the CAO report that reported on the cost of a vote-by-mail centered election or instant runoff voting.
Okay. But the council president just mentioned something about whether or not we should price out certain systems or what have you.
Right. One of the things, because there's been some discussion about putting a ballot measure forward for the voters to determine whether to move to an IRV or a vote-by-mail centered election. And what we're doing now is we're preparing a request for proposals to replace our existing voting system. And in that request, we're writing it in a way that will keep all options open for the new voting system to perhaps have an IRV component to that or something that would allow for a vote-by-mail centered election. In the case of a vote-by-mail centered election, that's predicated on having an electronic voting system. Instant runoff voting would affect the way we tally votes. And in either case, and in any case, for any voting system, we're going to have a certified system in the state of California. So what I was saying is that when we get the responses back from that proposal, we'll have a better idea of what the various systems are that are out there, what different vendors are going to be proposing, what the costs of those would be, and what the status would be of their various certifications with the state.
Now, why would you do, if there's such a broad consideration and we're not even sure what kind of system we're going to want to purchase, you're describing an RFP process. Wouldn't an RFQ process be as appropriate in when you're trying to figure out all these different parameters that we may policy-wise choose not to embark on?
Well, we may not. I think we want to see the proposals, and we want to get an idea of what vendors have available and the systems they can propose, because our goal is to perhaps have a new system implemented for the earliest would be the 2011 elections. We're going to be moving forward with our current system for 2009, but we're at a point where we want to look at replacing our voting system. It's in need of replacement. We want to look to that. One of the things that we're also doing is we want to partner with the county. We're going to be getting their input into the RFP so we can include their requirements, because there are issues important issues that should be considered in partnering with the county, both on cost and also on the impact of voters. If right now if we have the same system, we'll be able to back each other up. And if you have two different systems, because the county can't go to an IRV system because federal and state elections would preclude that. If we have an instant runoff voting system, for example, we would have two different ways for people to vote. One with the instant runoff process and one that's a little more of the traditional way of voting. That also means that we would not be able to consolidate some of our elections onto county ballots. We could do measures without any problem, but races would not be able to be done that way because the county would not be able to do the instant runoff tally. So those are some of the things to consider. And also with regard to partnering with the county, and is that they have federal and state money available to them for purchase of a system. We don't have that available to us. So if we go off on our own, the city would have to come up with that money to pay for a new system, and then we would recoup some of those costs over several election cycles from the other jurisdictions in which we conduct elections.
Well, there's several reasons why I don't like comparing San Francisco to Los Angeles on anything when it comes to government structure. Do you understand what the main concern is when you're talking about city and county of Los Angeles and San Francisco?
Well, first of all, the city and county of Los Angeles are much larger. We have a very diverse population. In San Francisco, I believe they provide election materials in 3 languages, including English. We do it in 7, including English. So the impact on voters, the impact on those communities is very much important.
Those are all valid points, and those are some of the reasons why I don't like comparing San Francisco to us when it comes to government structure. But there's one glaring, over-the-top reason why we shouldn't compare ourselves to San Francisco or whatever they did or didn't do. We should try to apply here when it comes to city and county is because they're the only city in the state of California that is a city-county government.
That's correct.
They are not separate. It's one board. You can call yourself a council member in San Francisco and not be lying when you say that I'm also a county supervisor, because you are one and the same. Here, it's not. Our budgets are not, our systems are not, and as you pointed out, the other levels are. But my time has expired, but Madam President, I want to ask you a question. You mentioned earlier about the comment cards that were filled out on this item. Are we going to listen to public comment on this?
There had not been a request to have open public comments. I had a hearing. I know Mr. Rosendahl wanted specifically the individual who had brought this forward to have a chance to speak, but otherwise...
I'd like to have public comment at least of 10 minutes to hear some semblance of both sides of this. This is a tremendously important issue affecting everybody in the city.
Okay.
President, I agree with my colleague, and I know we're on a push schedule, and I apologize for all what we did in that major presentation. But, you know, we have Monica Field here, who's an elected, who wants to speak, and also Steve Hill, who flew down. So if we could go with Mr. Cardenas's motion and open it up for 10 minutes, that'd be great.
Thank you. So I think what we would give is a minute for each of the speakers. I think we have about 10 cards of people that are here at that time.
That would be great if my colleagues are up for that. Mr. Cardenas made the motion. I'll second, and so is Ms. Hahn.
Okay. All right, we will do that. Mr. Rosendahl, you were next on the queue, and Mr. Alarcon and Mr. Zine, we will take your comments after we hear from the public comments.
Thank you very much, Madam President.
So we'd ask for 1 minute for those individuals. We'll first take Mr. Alan Clayton, who is in opposition to that.
Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, because this has been going a long time. I'm here to speak in opposition. I've been involved in elections actually for over 30 years, involved in campaigns, involved in redistricting. I've been involved in all the redistrictings of the city, the county, the school districts since the 80s. So I'm very familiar. I'm in opposition. In San Francisco, they did a research survey by San Francisco State, and they found of individuals that the first language was Spanish, 43% preferred this system over the runoff. In terms of Latinos, 47.4% preferred this system in comparison to the runoff. In terms of African Americans, 32.2% preferred this system in comparison to the runoff. This is a survey done by San Francisco State University. So in terms of both Latinos and African Americans, the majority in the survey did not support this system in comparison to the runoff system. I have a lot of concerns about this in terms of both Latinos and African Americans. Currently, in the elections I've looked at under the system we have right now, in majority-minority districts, almost every single election where there has been the ability for those minority communities to speak and have had the sufficient numbers based on the Federal Voting Rights Act, it's been very successful in terms of electing the candidates of the minority communities. I wish I had more time, but unfortunately, a minute's not enough time to really go in and argue this. But I think this is something you should take a serious look at. It has serious, I think, voting rights implications for both African Americans and Latinos, and I think it needs a lot more study. There's no study of any area that's similar to LA County that I've seen, and I think that we cannot turn the clock back on voting rights for Latinos by hastily adopting something that could have a negative impact. And I think the best elections are the ones that are fully conducted, and I think in a runoff you really get a chance to flesh out the issues and look at who are the candidates, what are their issues, and what are their positions to make the most informed choice. I don't want less democracy, I want more democracy. Thank you.
Thank you. And Ellen, we did give you an extra minute because most of the other you spoke for 2 minutes just now. We gave you that because you are the only speaker on the opposition side here today. So we wanted to give you that credibility.
But also,
Yes,
point of
Mr.
clarification,
Cardenas.
Madam President, point of clarification, especially since there's limited time, could we remind the speakers that you're welcome to submit for the record anything that you want to turn in as documents for the record?
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Cardenas. The next speakers, which we will abide by the 1 minute, Vanessa Rodriguez, Mona Field, Gautam Duda.
Good afternoon, council members. Vanessa Rodriguez with the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce, and we testified in support before committee earlier this week, so I will be brief and just like to reiterate that our board of directors took a unanimous support position on this idea, this concept last month. And we have a letter that you should have all received from our President, Gary Tobin, further outlining our support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mona.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
And good afternoon, and thank you so much for making time for this important conversation. Obviously, I represent the City of Los Angeles also for the Los Angeles Community College District. And again, I wanted to repeat what Eric said, that our district and the Unified also stand to save a great deal of money if instant runoff voting were to be approved by the voters. I do want to say that some of the concerns, of course, are very legitimate about timing, about machinery, about certification from the Secretary of State, and we do have clear communication from the Secretary of State's office that instant runoff voting can be certified, and the machinery is, would be available and could be certified. I do want to say that the LA Community College District has the experience of being first to do something in a region. In fact, we were first in the nation on our LEED building standards, and we drove the market. And that's what the City of Los Angeles would and could do with this. The machinery will be made available by companies who want to respond to the RFPs or RFQs, and if the city is serious and puts this on the ballot, as is desired by the Chamber and the County Fed, then indeed the equipment will be available and many of these questions will be answered. And I would also like to say that I do believe that if the city were to make this progressive change, then the county would no doubt consider it. I think it would create more of a ripple effect, and that all of the concerns about coordination would be resolved.
Thank you. If you could just ask you to conclude. So I know you don't have the timer there, so that's okay.
I wasn't looking. I thank you all for making time for this important conversation.
Thank you, Mona. I appreciate it. Gautam Duda, sorry if I've mispronounced your name, followed by, looks like Maureen Cruz, if correct, and Michael Russo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Gautam Duda from New America Foundation. In just a few months, instant runoff voting has done the virtually impossible. It has brought together virtually all of Los Angeles. Here we have the Los Angeles Chamber of Commerce, the Los Angeles County Federation of Labor, the SEIU 721, Unite Here, AFL Faculty Guild, leaders such as Mayor Reardon, Richard Alatorre, John Chung, Laura Chick, Margaret Lee Thomas, all agree on one thing: instant runoff voting and how it will improve the electoral climate and elections and life in Los Angeles. Why is everyone supporting IRV? For one thing, it'll save $8 to $9 million every local election. For another, it's going to relieve voter fatigue. As we know, there was an election last year for LECCD where only 6% of voters showed up, and that cost $5.5 million at $40 per voter. That needs to change. So what we're proposing is that IRV be adopted to take effect in 2011. The city's going to have to buy new voting equipment anyway, as required by the Secretary of State, so this is an opportune time. IRV has more than proven its worth. It'll save the city money, and we ask that the council put it on the ballot for November of this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maureen, followed by Michael Russo, followed by Bob Smith.
Hello, thank you all for your time today and always. I really appreciate the hard work that City Council does. I know how hard my councilman works, and he's inspirational. I'm a native Los Angelino. I've worked in LA County Public Health. I've worked for LAUSD, and I've worked for the state. For years, I've been a poll watcher and a precinct observer. This last June 3rd, I participated as a poll worker, and the first 5 hours that the three of us sat at our precinct table, there were 22 people in 5 hours that came to vote. The overall state participation was about 17% of the electorate. This cost us about $47 a vote. These are from the LA Times, so, you know, they might be right. As a result of this primary, now we have to have a runoff for county supervisor and for several judicial races. So no one has to talk to you about budget. You know that elections are expensive, but we don't have to. We have a solution, and we don't have to continue in this wasteful manner. So I'm hoping, as a citizen and as a longtime Los Angelino, as someone who's voted every single election, that you will please increase democracy by also giving us a choice between first, second, and third, ranking our first, second, and third choices, and instant runoff voting will do that. So I hope you will do the right thing as the most accountable, accessible, and transparent legislative body that we have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Michael Russo, followed by Bob Smith. If you all, we do have the timer up here, so you'll kind of have an idea that I'm sorry if I'm interrupting you. I apologize.
Hi, my name is Michael Russo, and I'm an advocate with CalPIRG, the California Public Interest Research Group. We're in support of IRV. Just to go through some of the reasons why we think it's a good idea. As has been said, it will save a lot of money. It will enhance representation. It will reduce strategic voting, reduce negative campaigning, reduce voter fatigue. Just to quickly move to the reasons not to do it. Obviously, if it led to voter confusion, we would be against it. We need to make it easier for people to vote, not harder. But again, the experience in San Francisco has been that people understand it, across communities. And even for people who didn't know before they got to the polls that IRV was going to be there, that they would need to rank their choices, the overwhelming majority still said they understood the process. Even those who didn't were able to just vote for one candidate the way they used to, no harm done, just the same as they had always voted previously. Again, in terms of cost, it does require an upfront investment, but with the changeover in the equipment coming, there's no better time to do it than right now. We urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bob Smith, followed by Genevieve Marcus, followed by Stephen Hill.
Okay, we're rotating for gender balance.
Thank you.
I'm Genevieve Marcus, and I'm from Experimental Cities Incorporated, nonprofit. We seek positive alternatives to social and environmental problems. I'm absolutely thrilled that you are already informed on this issue. We strongly support it, and the only piece I can add to your extensive knowledge already is that I've been informally interviewing people throughout the 5th District, the Grove, and the Museum, and La Brea and Fairfax area, and I have found voters and citizens very excited about this, and they really want to move on this. They feel that it will expand their participation. They feel it gives them a voice that they didn't have. It was very warming earlier this morning to see that we're expanding democracy in Los Angeles, and this would add another piece to it, to have people have greater voice in their voting behavior. And so we strongly, and these people that I have spoken to, strongly encourage you to get it moving for the November ballot. We don't want to hear that it's too late because the machinery this, the machinery that. So please consider this for the November ballot.
Thank you very, very much. Mr. Smith, followed by Stephen Hill, followed by Stephen Ochoa.
I'm Bob Smith. I arrived in California when I was 12 years old in 1940. L.A., the boundaries were Florence Boulevard was a farm, the valley was a farm. 6 years later, it was all city, all businesses. 2002, we brought this before the city council, and they didn't do a thing about it. IRV is important. I'm also a co-president of the Experimental Cities, but I was a founder of the Hyatt Hotels. I've done a lot of work with voting, and I think that this city council needs to be fully here when this is presented, not half of them here. And it's very important that we move ahead and change the voting system so it costs us less money, so that people will have an opportunity to participate. That is what democracy is about, and I believe that democracy all states that our representatives should represent the people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Hill, followed by Stephen Ochoa, followed by Zumadog.
Thank you, members of the council. It's a pleasure to address you on this important topic. My name is Stephen Hill. I'm with the New America Foundation, and I've had the pleasure of assisting the city of San Francisco as well as other cities around the United States in actually implementing a ranked ballot system like instant runoff voting. So I understand the anxiety that a change like this does produce, but I'm here to tell you that you can make these sorts of changes and do them in a way that where no one gets left behind. In San Francisco, for example, there have been 4 exit polls done by organizations like San Francisco State University and Asian Law Caucus. One number that stood out to me, 87% of voters in San Francisco said they understood instant runoff voting. Now, that doesn't mean they can tell you how to count the ballots, but they understood that their role was to go in that voting booth and rank their candidates 1, 2, 3, and they were comfortable with that process. And that result cut across all ethnic and racial lines. I think when you think about it, voters are used to ranking things, their favorite sports teams and whatever, and I think the experience of other places shows that when you make the expectation that they have to rank their candidates now in a political setting, they are able to do that just fine. So I would suggest to you that come on in, the water's fine. Other cities are doing this. It's not, it's a bit of a change, but with a proper education, you'll find that this will save you a lot of money, and you'll see increases in voter turnout. And voters actually get quite interested and excited about now not being stuck in the lesser of two evils and being able to instead just pick one candidate. Now they get to rank a first, second, and third choice. Voters like doing that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ochoa?
Thank you, members of the City Council. My name is Stephen Ochoa. I am with the William C. Velasquez Institute, and I'm just here to reiterate that Antonio Gonzalez, president of WCVI, and I are very supportive of the IRV process. It is our belief that this will actually enhance the efficiency of the minority vote. One election versus two does make it somewhat a little less burdensome to follow the election process and participate more fully. There are cost effectiveness, there are cost efficiency benefits as well. This does have a few endorsements by the National Latino Congreso as well. I do want to say though, if IRV is done, the voter education campaign must be done though. That there has to be an education component in this, which is of vital importance to the minority community. It is a switch, and there does need to be some care taken with that. But we are in favor of this process, and we urge you to vote yay on it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Zumadog, followed by Senator Mark Ridley Thomas's office, Fernando Ramirez. And I think that will be our 10 minutes after that.
Thank you. I see you're going by importance of significance and power, so I appreciate that. I didn't want to talk on this because there's so many agenda items today that there's not enough to get to. But if we're talking about voting by mail, we must talk about the recent city clerk's election citywide, where the absentee ballots were received by voters after the election. Can I have a Price is Right? Womp, 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 womp. So I don't think the city is really prepared to increase its amount of voting by mail, because also the last election, I've been here 2 years now, you might remember last time. Oh, and by the way, the absentee ballots that were collected weren't counted by the city clerk's office. It would have favored my candidate, who I liked. So they didn't count them until my friends showed up and said, gee, we'd like to see everything. And then the absentee ballots weren't there. And where are the absentee ballots? Oh, here they are. We forgot. A lot of shadiness, a lot of corruption when you do it by mail. Zumadog says be very aware of it when you do it by mail, of not getting your votes counted.
Thank you very much. Fernando Ramirez? Let's have our last speaker on this item.
Hi, my name is...
My name is Fernando Ramirez. I'm here on behalf of State Senator Mark Ridley Thomas to urge passage of this IRV, instant runoff voting. The senator unfortunately could not make it, but he did testify before the Rules Committee when this item was taken up. So I'm here to reiterate the senator's support for this item. Thank you.
And thank you for your brevity. Appreciate that. Okay, the item is now again before us. Mr. Rosendahl, followed by Mr. Alacone, and followed by Mr. Zine.
Yeah, unfortunately, the city clerk's office let us down, not you. You know, this has been a motion before the city clerk's office since 2002 from the city council to study it and come up with something, just like I've been asking questions, and it takes forever and a day. And frankly, the report that you all have that we need to focus on is half-baked. But it's been 2002 when our previous colleagues said, let's discuss instant runoff voting. Let's see how it happens. I did a lot of television in those days and talked about instant runoff voting, same-day registration and voting as part of the reform effort going forward. And frankly, I also personally think our elections should be on the even years with everybody else, and somebody's going to get their act together in the new technology of 2008 and put it all on one ballot so we have large turnouts, large discussion. And you know something? If the media was more responsible, they would do a lot more substantive shows like they do all over the world. The public owns the airwaves, you know, not these money-making companies. So the public doesn't know much about anything. And when they go to the polls now, there's nobody on flipping through the whole ballot. We have the League of Women Voters always trying to scream and get it out, but they can barely get the message out because there's very little substantive, informative discussions on elections in America. That's one of the problems of this great nation. So you got to buy these 30-second sound spot garbage and spend millions of dollars to broadcasters using the public airwaves and paying them to put on your stupid 30-second spot saying how great I am when you run for office. Or we, at our level on the city council, do these stupid little brochures that go in the door and then the people look at. I mean, it's terrible that the biggest democracy on earth is so undemocratic with its media. I think it's an outrage. And I think that our election folks, not you, but the history from 2002 to 2008, 6 years, and we don't have it together. But anyhow, saying that, not as just my personal frustration, since we're going to put on the ballot in November the gang initiative, I'm so enthused about that property tax so that we can have real money dedicated to after-school programs. This would only cost a couple of $100,000 to put it on, and we could have a healthy discussion, let the public have it, let them figure it out and see where they want to go. So I'm for that, but I don't think we have the votes to put it on this November. But I'm just kind of hopeful that maybe someday we'll get our act together enough to at least put it on the ballot and have a healthy discussion about it and let people in a democracy make that decision themselves. And I just want to thank Steve Hill et al. Over there and Monica Field and all the others that spoke in favor of this happening for being down here and providing the leadership that you provide all over the place. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Mr. Alacone.
This is we really are at a critical juncture, and the question is there's two issues that are on a parallel track, and one is expediting the technology for our election system, period. And secondly is the whole question of instant voting. What makes it difficult is that if we pick to not do instant voting, we may be back with this discussion in 2 or 3 years, and if we invest in new technology, that investment could be in jeopardy if we come back with another proposal later. If we move forward with instant voting, we may invest in technology that is yet to be sort of ripened as we look at other possibilities or other methods that have been deployed throughout the country. We may not have the benefit of sufficient experience with the technologies that are deployed, and it's always nice to have newer technologies learn from the first technologies in. I am really, first of all, let me say that the interesting thing is this will not affect any election that I'm in the city of Los Angeles, because I'm serving. If I get elected the next time, I'll be serving in my next term. There is no proposal here to make instant voting in 2009, so this is not going to affect my election possibilities one way or the other. Thank you, Mr. There's one. But instant, and frankly, when I did run for mayor, Mr. Garcetti, the polls indicated that I would have fared pretty well in instant voting, quite frankly. I think I would have come in second place, according to some of the polls. But I think this is a critical decision that maybe needs more time. And at the same time, the city clerk needs direction, and they need more information before we can make an accurate decision. I am not supporting instant voting, instant runoff voting. I am not there yet. I'm concerned about the negative ramifications, and mostly I'm concerned with, we've been on a track for all these years running primary elections and runoff elections, and I absolutely know, believe me, after running in 5 elections or 6 elections, I know that the campaign for a primary election is very different than the campaign in a runoff election. And the information that the public gets is very different when there are multiple candidates versus when there's 2 candidates. So this is a really dramatic change. It sounds, I think the proponents are making this sound easier than it is in terms of its effect, not on the cost, but on the democracy. And I really think we have to think about that. And the vote that we make to go forward with an instant voting should be based on the best option for the strongest democracy, not on whether it saves $1 million here and there. It really should be on whether it is the best thing for our democracy, and I'm not sure it is. So, although I'm not necessarily opposed to the RFP process, I'm absolutely opposed to doing anything in November. I'm opposed to doing anything in March because the election cycle, frankly, has already begun. But I think we need to move forward with a lot more caution than some people would like to. And so I will support the measure today, but I don't want people to think that that is a yes vote for my support on instant runoff voting.
Mr. Zine.
Thank you, Madam President. Did I hear that, and I heard this in committee yesterday, and I discussed it with my distinguished colleague, the Council President, Eric Garcetti, that we have a lot of unanswered questions. I think the recommendation was that we not put it on the ballot in November, that we wait to get the information back. Is that the position from the city? I can't hear you.
Jody Oxheimer with the CAO. The recommendation from the CAO is that you continue consideration on the costs until you have the results of the RFP, and the city clerk has had an opportunity to look at some of those responses. But that in the interim you talk about some of these policy discussions and the impact on voters and the election processes.
But we don't put it on the ballot for November.
Not based on the costs.
Okay, well, we don't know the costs.
Right.
Now, did I also hear that the instant voter runoff is only for local but not for national elections?
That's correct.
So we'd have to have 2 systems.
We could have the same system, but you wouldn't have the same voting experience for the voters. It's possible that you can have one system where one type of election is tallied one way and another kind is tallied a different way. But what that means is that we would be running separate elections. Well, let me back up one moment. Many times we consolidate some of our races onto a county ballot, for example. If the county has one system and we have a different way of voting, then we can't do that easily. We can only do that with measures. We can't do it with races. And we also would not be able to consolidate the LAUSD and LA Community College District elections on neighboring cities, which we also do when there's an opportunity to do so. So that means that the voters, when they go to a poll, we would be running what's called a concurrent election. That means that instead of having all of the ballot items on one ballot, you would have 2. The voters would go to probably one polling place, but they would go to one table and vote for the local measures and another location to vote for state or federal measures. Now, with our, just strictly with our city elections, if, for our municipal elections, IRV, we would be, just doing it with that method. The IRV would apply to the council district races and so on, but also not to measures. Those are yes or no. So
we're going to complicate the system more than it is. Instead of simplifying it, we're going to complicate it.
Well, there are definitely issues that need to be worked out. I mean, for example, we use the same poll workers as the county does. So they would have to understand both different types of systems. They would have to be able to explain both. There are certainly some areas where there can be some confusion, but that's also where we're saying if the city were to move to an instant runoff voting system, or for that matter for a vote by mail centered election, we would need to have a very aggressive educational campaign in order to make sure that voters understood how to vote and that we reached everybody that we would need to. So any system, any new system is going to have some voter education involved with it, but something that's a big departure from what people are used to doing is obviously going to be more of an effort, and we want to make sure that the voters understand how to vote, and that's addressed if the city decides to go in that direction in the future.
And then we'd have to have that given in 6 or 7 different languages.
I'm sorry?
We'd have to have that then delivered in 6 or 7 different languages.
In 7, including
7 different languages. So when I heard yesterday, and if it was mentioned, I didn't understand that part, that we'd have to have a system for local, another system for federal. For example, the presidential election coming up in November, we couldn't use this instant voter runoff system. We'd have to use another process to... What about a state election? Would we have to use the federal type system for a state election? So this would only be good for city elections.
This is only good for local elections.
So what is the advantage financially? If they talk about saving money, how are we going to save money if we're going to have to build another system into the process? How are we going to save money?
Well, with instant runoff voting in particular, the savings would be down the line, and what you're saving is the cost of doing the runoff election.
In local elections?
In local elections.
But if they win in the primary, then you don't have to worry about that.
That's correct.
What we've seen in the few previous elections, there's been the candidates have won in the primary, so we haven't had to do.
Right.
At the last council election, there were no runoffs.
For the city. That's right. So and it
so
varies.
we save money.
It varies, depending on what it is. If it's a citywide runoff, obviously that's going to cost more as if you just have a runoff in one council district or 2 council districts. The costs are lower. So it really depends on what is going to be on that ballot.
So what really troubles me is that we're going to develop a new system for local election, but we're going to use the current system for state and national election.
Well, we're looking to replace the voting system anyway.
But we can't replace the voter system with instant voter runoff for state and federal elections.
No, but we don't conduct those ourselves. What this would mean is if we went that way, that we would be departing from what the county does, which means that we wouldn't have that opportunity to back each other up if we're using different systems. That's one of the advantages of having the same system. But that's also something that we're going to have to look at in replacing the system just generally, is whether we have the same system as the county or whether the city goes off on its own and has a different system from the county. So those are considerations that need some discussion before we award any sort of, we go to award any sort of a new voting system. And those are the things that we'll know more about later on after we've done this RFP. And as I said, we're working with the county so that either we can participate with them or they can participate with us. So
are they moving toward instant voter runoff?
No, I don't believe they are.
The county's not moving that direction. What about ethics? How does ethics play into this?
I would have to defer to, well, there's...
She's anxiously waiting to come to the table.
There's issues with campaign finance.
Well, you've got matching funds and campaign and this and that and the other, and the question, because I'm looking at this is the end of June, and you're looking at putting something on in November where we have so many questions remaining that have to be answered. Is it realistic for us to do that? Since voting to me is a very, very precious part of being an American and democracy, and I voted every election since I was eligible to vote. So to me, it's very, very special. I know a lot of people don't vote, but I think in this presidential election, a lot of people will vote because of the flavor of this particular time in our society. The question is, when we're investing dollars in this process, in this system, and ethics is obviously a part of the election process here in Los Angeles, how does ethics play into this process and this new proposal in this new system?
Is this on?
Just got to speak up real loud.
Ooh, I did. Heather Holt with the City Ethics Commission. The Ethics Commission administers the Public Matching Funds Program, and that could, an IRV system could have significant effects on the public matching funds system. Currently, we provide additional matching funds to candidates who participate in the system when an independent expenditure is made that either opposes them or supports someone who is running against them. But that only occurs in a runoff because it is very difficult, it can be very difficult to determine who is supported or opposed by a particular independent expenditure when there are more than two individuals in the race. If IRV were implemented, obviously the runoff would be eliminated, and we would need to consider whether the same system should be continued as far as the matching funds. If it is continued, that could have a significant impact on whether the funding levels for the matching funds program are sufficient to provide all of the matching funds that could be required in a race where independent expenditures are essentially, they're not matched, but they allow for greater public matching funds for the potential for a number of candidates in any given race.
And where do those funds come from?
Those funds come from the Public Matching Funds Trust Fund, which is
where does that come from?
the general fund.
So those are tax dollars that pay for police and fire and recs and parks and everything else. So we would have fewer dollars in the pot to provide those services because the money would be diverted to this. So in essence, this is going to cost us more money than what we're paying now in the process that we have in place. My concern is finances and how we're going to afford it and how it's going to work. So I still, as I said yesterday in committee, we have so many unanswered questions on this. I don't know how we can, in good conscience, could push it forward to say put it on the November ballot with all these unanswered questions remaining. Now, once we get the answers to the questions, then we can make a determination and consideration. I think it's premature, and I'll be very candid. I think the concept's good, but I think it's premature for us to take it without the cost factors and with the budget that the city faces, and we're talking about gloom and doom the next fiscal year, how we can afford to do this at this particular time when we can't provide those other services because we don't have the funding.
Thank you.
I have done mine. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
so
Mr. Stein.
I am a no vote.
Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you very much, colleagues, and thank you. I think, like you, I agree that this is something that that clearly we don't have the questions answered to, but I know that the momentum that had been building and the great work of the advocates, the County Federation of Labor, the Chamber of Commerce, the VICA, we had people who we respect a lot saying this is a good idea, so it was something that we needed to talk about here. But I think we need to do this eyes wide open when we have those questions answered. When we know those costs, it could save actually on the public matching funds. But also one thing I didn't hear a lot about, this isn't just about IRV, it's also vote by mail. So as we're looking at, and one of the directions I would move the CAO report, but I would also, just really emphasize to all of you that we want to look at software that will allow us to have the option to do IRV. We've been in communication with the Secretary of State's office, and they think that probably to get in place for the March 2011 elections, we'd have to buy it and begin installing it by March 2010 at the latest, which means we'd have to go out to bid by mid-2009. So even if we never did IRV, but we wanted to do vote by mail more aggressively, which is, I think, a way that we could all get those ballots at home, have 100 drop-off centers instead of how many polling places do we have now?
We have 2,000.
2,000. That's a real cost savings for us, and also probably increases the participation, or can if we do it the right way. Those are things I'd like to continue to hear from you and your offices about, because that's where the rubber is going to hit the road. So we really look forward to the RFP. There is, and looking at the technology that's out there, it's my understanding right now that there is no IRV voting system approved for use yet in California. Sequoia Voting Systems has an IRV system in place in the federal testing pipeline, and they soon may bring it to the California Secretary of State for review. Burlington, Vermont has an IRV process that appears to use Premier machines that have been modified to accommodate some type of open source software, but this wasn't yet approved at the federal level. So we are awaiting the technology to catch up with what we want to do, but without those answers today, I would move the CAO report to continue to try to find those answers and keep this conversation going. Thank you.
Recommendation
CAO report
is to adopt the CAO report. And what for the colleagues, what does the CA report? It indicates.
You want to restate one more time, Jody? What I know she restated before, but it was that essentially to continue looking at the cost of this, and in the meantime, go forward with the RFP.
Exactly. Okay. Thank you. Just want to make that clear so everyone knew. Is there a second on that item of moving the CA report? Mr. Reyes? Okay. That item is now before us. Open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
10 ayes, 1 no.
Okay. Thank you. Next item we're going to take is actually item number 17. Mr. Zumadog? Item number 17.
Yeah, we didn't support it. It's just to continue talking.
Oh, yeah, very important, very important, very important. Number 17, this is about the Neighborhood Rescue and Stabilization Act. It regards foreclosure, prevention, and mortgage servicings. It says here that the city wants to lengthen the time the cities may spend these funds from 18 to 24 months. Hell yeah. In case you haven't heard, gas is at $5 a gallon. DWP is going to be raising their rates by about 30 to 50% over 3 years. You've heard about subprime. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people feel that we've hit the bottom of this and it's leveled out. Well, if you heard what happened on the stock market yesterday, I'm here to say we've got a long way down. And this foreclosure thing, we've only seen the beginning of the effects. And what we're going to start to see here is, for example, the local coffee shop. Well, 6 businesses around them, the coffee shop goes out of business. They lose all that business and all those customers. And I think we're going to see a big collapse around here. So, yes.
Thank you very much. That was your last 2 minutes, Mr. Zumadog. No, it went past the 1 minute, sir. It was past the 1 minute. You did not use 1 minute. No, you did, sir. I watched it. It did not, sir. Thank you. So that item is now before us in addition to item number 29, 32, and 33. Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the vote.
$11 ayes.
Thank you. Next time, if we could, on item number 18, we did have 2 cards on that, Mark Holtzman and Ronnie Cox. There was just an error in the actual report, if I can, for those places where it says, for street purposes on Magnolia Boulevard, it actually should be Branton Place, to make that as a verbal amendment. With that amended, Madam Clerk, if you could open the roll on item number 18, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
11 ayes.
That item's been approved. Believe there was a request to take item 22 next, Mr. Garcetti. Item 22 is actually Mr. Rosendahl. Mr. Rosendahl? Item 22? When Mr. Rosendahl returns, we will go back to that item. There's been a request on item number 31. 31 was called special by a card. Mr. Sachs. Mr. Sachs?
Can't keep track of the auctioneer running here. Yes, good afternoon. I'm just really concerned about this a little bit. It's a fiber optics plan. I do not understand why the city is relinquishing its control over fiber optics to a department, a proprietary department that the city has no financial controls over. That means the public is at the mercy of the DWP and no controls. No controls for the constituents that that the horseshoe is supposed to represent. How can they do that? What is the warranty that would allow you, or that you would say, well, you know what, fiber optics, the coming revolution in electronics, in communications, and we're going to give up our control to the LADWP and let them run this show. Yet the LADWP is a circus. They can't keep control of their own infrastructure, and you're giving it up. Again, I'd like to thank you for your time, your answers, and your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sachs. I see none of my colleagues on the queue. Madam Clerk, could you please open the roll on this item, close the roll, and tabulate the votes?
11 ayes.
Thank you. Beautiful presentation there, gentlemen. I understand we can take item number 22 on consent. If we could open, Madam Clerk, the roll on item number 22, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
11 ayes.
Thank you. Next item, Mr. Rosendahl, I think you asked for item 28. You fine? Consent as well. Okay, we do have one card on item 28. Mr. Arnold Sachs on item number 28. You do have 1 minute left, Mr. Sachs.
Thank you. I do like when you run the meeting. It's like a speed reading course. Thank you very much. My concerns with this, I actually don't particularly care. Marriage is marriage. But I do have one concern based on recent headlines in the newspapers regarding the federal judge who had to recuse himself from an obscenity trial. My concerns involve the definition of what the marriage would be. I have no problems with a male wanting to marry a male or a female wanting to marry a female, totally. But my concerns, according to this obscenity trial, would be interspecies marriage between a human and an animal. I'm very concerned regarding that. You have a sympathetic judge, you'll find a sympathetic attorney, and next thing you know, humans will be marrying animals, and it'll be allowed. We need to have language.
Sir, please. It's not relevant to this issue.
I'm sorry.
Your time has expired. Thank you very much, Mr. Sachs. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, if we could also open the roll, that was his last minute on item number 25 and 28. If you could open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
11 ayes.
Mr. Dowd, you do have cards on other items. I'm sorry, your card was not presented. Mr. Dowd, the agenda was there from the beginning. You chose to put the cards in that you did, and we had already had the one public speaking card. That item's been approved. So the next item, Madam Clerk, actually is item number 15. Mr. Dowd, you put a card on item number 15.
That's why the city's got a lot of enemies, because they're discretionarily cutting. Now, I want to talk about a lot of things on this agenda, but if I choose to talk on an item, then the city should allow the public comment. That's exactly why you're ending up in lawsuits and losing a lot of money.
He is not speaking on the item here.
Please speak to this item, Mr. Dowd.
That's why you have to find money wherever you can by closing down people's properties. You know, this one's a rent escrow account, okay? That's a good one for the community, and I got to reinforce that it's good on the landlords who are trying to lease substandard properties, and the public get reamed, of course, so the city steps in and makes them fix it up to code. But honestly, I'm just going to take my warning now and make the city attorney do something. Dion O'Connell, you big loser, you're dumb as mud like all the rest of the attorneys in this city.
Item is now before us, item 15. Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
11 ayes.
Item 16 was called special by card. Mr. Dowd, are you deciding not to speak on that item? Okay. So item 16 is now before us. Madam Clerk, please open the roll on item number 16, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
11 ayes.
Thank you. Also, Mr. Dowd was here on item number 23. Madam Clerk, please open the roll, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
11 ayes.
Thank you. And for the public, I know, Mr. Attorney, we do have an opportunity from the beginning of the meeting for people to submit cards. They're able to do that. We call those cards. There's a certain number of minutes in which they are allowed to speak in public comment, and those are the rules that are outlined here in the City Council. And for those of who wish to speak are able to do so. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Madam President, there are motions for posting and referral.
Those will be posted and referred. Next item.
Okay. Madam President, there's excuses on the desk. Councilmember Weiss requests to be excused on July 15th for personal business. This meets policy.
Be excused.
And that clears the desk.
That clears the desk. Thank you. Any announcements, colleagues? Yes, Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you.
Madam President, I'm sorry. Just to make sure, was 32 was not voted on.
Okay. I didn't sure what item was left. So
Let's go ahead and move on to 32.
And item number 32 is before us. Madam Clerk, please open the roll on item 32, close the roll, and tabulate the votes.
11 ayes.
Thank you. That item's been approved. Announcements, Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you, colleagues. If I could have your attention just for a second. Michael Johnson, who is one of our great sergeants at arms, birthday is today, so we wanted to wish him a very happy birthday. He's there working right now, but very happy birthday to you, Michael. And thank you for all you do. It's one of the toughest jobs in show business, but you do it with grace and aplomb. Thank you.
Any other announcements? Yes, Mr. Cardenas.
Thank you very much. The community of Van Nuys has a beautiful, wonderful courtyard in the Civic Center that the City of Los Angeles has that space. So what we've done in conjunction with the community of Van Nuys and my council office is we're going to kick off the Family Summer Festival, which is at the courtyard area and behind City Hall in the San Fernando Valley. The actual address is 14410 Sylvan Street, Van Nuys. This is the kickoff of a series of events that we're going to have there for the public. And this Saturday, June 28th, we'll be kicking off with a great movie. I don't think it won an Academy Award, but fun little movie for kids, Alvin and the Chipmunks. And it'll begin with 4 to 6 o'clock arts and crafts and a fun zone for all the kids and families, and live entertainment from 6 to 8 p.m. And the movie presentation will begin at 8 p.m. in the courtyard. And the movie is courtesy of 20th Century Fox. In addition to that, after that, July 26th, we'll have the movie Cheaper by the Dozen with the same schedule of events that day. On August 23rd, it'll be Night at the Museum, which is a movie. And then also the movie on September 13th, Bajo la Misma Luna, which is a beautiful, wonderful movie. I happened to see that one. Again, this is the kickoff of the Family Summer Festival in the community of Van Nuys, but it's open to everyone, and it is free. Again, it is free movie for the kids and the families and all kinds of entertainment and fun stuff.
Thank you, Mr. Cardenas. Any other announcements? If not, do we have adjourning motions? We do. Yes, Mr. Garcetti, before we go into adjourning motions?
Pointed out to me, too, that Ken Moody, our sound man, had his birthday yesterday, so happy birthday, Ken.
Mr. Alarcon, we have an announcement before we go into adjourning motions.
Tomorrow morning at 8:30, I'm going to go bowling at the Mission Hills Bowl. That in and of itself is not the announcement. The announcement is that this is a competition of the United States Youth Bowling Association, and so for those who like bowling, I guarantee you that if I were competing, I would beat any presidential candidate on any ballot. And so, but we will be out at the Mission Hills Bowl for those constituents in the Northeast San Fernando Valley, or the valley as a whole, as a matter of fact, have an opportunity to see these young bowlers doing amazing bowling tomorrow. It's a great opportunity to go to Mission Hills Bowl, so I encourage all of you tomorrow, Saturday, pretty much all day long. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alarcon. We do have adjourning motions. If we could ask everyone to please rise. Mr. Rosendahl.
Yes, Don White. Many of us know him. died in June, about the 20th, we told, of apparently a massive heart attack. He was born in Anacortes, Washington. His life was a reflection of the last 60 years of progressive movements in the United States. From the time that he was a college student in the late 1950s, fighting against the injustices surrounding the House of Representatives Un-American Activities Committee, Don remained engaged in the struggle for peace and justice for humanity. As a dynamic speaker, he was a fixture of the left, often serving as master of ceremonies or moderating events sponsored by a wide range of progressive organizations and coalitions. Don came to Los Angeles in 1963 and taught history at the Irving Junior High School there. As a charter and lifetime member of the United Teachers of Los Angeles, he was deeply committed to issues of equality and educational opportunities, especially for children in the inner cities. Don participated in every teachers' union strike from 1963 until his retirement in 1997. In 1976, Don traveled to Guatemala in response to the devastating earthquake. He called that month-long journey an epiphany of life, changing his life, which remains a vibrant part of his political psychic, which resulted in his friendship and faith services to Central America. The Office of the Americas, Blaise and Teresa Pompane, who are tremendously close, were to him. He was a major player in that group. He was also a lead organizer and coordinator in the recent historic mass demonstrations for peace and pro-immigration solidarity rallies in Los Angeles. There's going to be a huge event that the teachers' organizations are putting together. I'll get back to you in public announcement at another date for that. May Don White rest in peace.
Mr. Garcetti.
Thank you, and I'd like to second that. Knew Don, and he was a fabulous individual, and my partner Amy worked very closely with him at Americans for Democratic Action. For Mr. Labanja, I'd like us to adjourn today for Maria Gutierrez, who passed away this Tuesday, a United States postal worker who was killed while delivering mail and was involved in a fatal accident at the corner of Lyric and Hyperion Avenue in the 4th Council District in Silver Lake. She was a resident of Downey, California, and she was killed in the line of her service, and we all mourn that loss. May she rest in peace.
Thank you. Any other adjourning motions? If not, Madam Clerk, please call the roll. This meeting is now adjourned.